Christy, are you all set?
I just need to get
All right, we're going to wait just a minute.
into my.
Just a minute.
hoping that I can-
Okay. I will convene the meeting of the Westborough Select Board, being the right time and the right place. I would ask all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Now I'll ask for a moment of silence in respect of the victims of 9/11. Okay, thank you. I'd like to say thank you to Westborough TV for recording this and providing it on the various different access locations. And then I'd like to just remind all tonight as you come up, as well as the board members, to please speak into the mics. We've got a number of requests from citizens that they're having difficulties hearing us at board meetings, so just please speak closely to the mic so that they can hear you online. With that said, I'll open it up for item number two, for open forum. Is there anyone here for open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 2, the Employee Excellent Award for FY 2024. Christy?
So as the board is aware, we have an Employee of the Month. We have an Employee of the Month program. So employees are welcome to nominate other employees for this award. And each month we announce the award winner, who also receives 1 day off as part of that. And then at the end of that year, then we choose an Employee of the Year. And so this year, we're very happy to award Dana Jackman from the DPW as Employee of the Year. So I'm just going to read through the nominations that we received about Dana. Dana has been working tirelessly to ensure all the DPW equipment is repaired and maintained. With the age of the equipment and daily stress put on the aged equipment, Dana often has his hands full with repairs. When snow operations are underway, Dana is always at the DPW ready to manage any equipment failure or issues that arise. He is one of the first people in and the last to leave. His commitment to the DPW and his professional skills minimize downtime so operations can run smoothly. Dana is always professional and approachable to everyone who has a question or a concern about their equipment, and he always gives an explanation in layman's terms. Dana is responsible for fleet maintenance spanning many town departments in addition to the DPW, so there is always a line of vehicles ready for maintenance or repairs. Thank you, Dana, for your hard work and dedication. Congratulations.
Can I say something real quick?
Absolutely, please do.
No. So I think this award or recognition is just amazing. Dana, I know we're talking about the past year, but Dana's been with the town for close to almost just about 40 years.
Wow.
Which is incredible by itself. And his wife, Candace, is here. She's been beside him that entire time. He spent many nights in the past away from home, weekends, snow, and everything else that goes along with that. So just a shout out to her and what she's done. Just to the past year, Christy just read, all the amazing things, but it's a 2-man show, and we've had only one man, Dana, for the past year carrying the weight of all of the work that's done. I've seen Dana obviously throughout the day, every day, but I also have seen him on weekends at 2 a.m. in the morning during a snowstorm and all kinds of different time periods. And I've never once bumped into him and he's not fully engaged in some activity to make the town better, fixing vehicles at 1:30 in the morning. I mean, he could be just waiting for something to break and go out and help, which is why he's ultimately here on a Saturday morning for a snowstorm, but he's not. He's finding things to get done and take care of them. And so I don't think you're going to find a more persistent, dedicated, committed individual. So I know I'm talking a lot and taking up your time, but I just really think it's important to recognize him, and I appreciate that he is being recognized because he's done a lot for this town this past year and for the 39 prior. So,
Wow.
Great.
so
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for sharing that. That's wonderful to hear.
Thanks,
Yes.
Dana.
Thank you.
Can we just hear from Dana?
Yeah, Dana, would you like to make any comments?
No, I stay under the radar.
Under the vehicle?
I appreciate being recognized for what I do it because that's what I like to do.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So we're going to present you with a citation and a gift card.
Yes.
Awesome. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll get Sean's signature on it. He's not here yet, so
As well. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Can we get a picture?
Here, your picture.
Yes, please.
Dana, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we'll get Alan in virtual. Smile, Smile, Alan.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to item 3, request to establish a gift account for dog parks and update. So Jen, come on up.
Hi, I'm Jen Kirkland, Recreation Director. So there's this is twofold. One is a request to establish a gift account for the dog park, and second is an update. So I think I'll start with the update here on where we're at with the dog park. In the middle of August, we received one bid for the project. Came in a lot higher than we had anticipated at $480,000. So after speaking with our architect and a representative from the Stanton Foundation, as you'll remember, where we're getting a good portion of the money from, I asked for some guidance on where we go from here, and both recommended basically to pare down the RFP to get a base project built, and then over time be able to add things that you want. So at least you'll be able to use the Stanton money to kind of get that base park, and then over time, hopefully, be able to add in some of the features that we had to take away. So we're going out to bid. The bids will be available September 16th, and they're due October 7th. And then on that date, we'll be able to know from there whether we can move forward or not. But our architect feels like we should be able to get to our number with these changes. So with that said, other towns I know have established, Friends of the Dog Park or things like that. So I think we're asking to establish a gift account just on the off chance people want to donate to kind of see this park come to fruition. We want to have that account available to receive funds should we get donations.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Any other
Yeah,
questions?
just
Sure.
really more for the public's benefit,
Sure.
since sort of it's been a while, right? So exciting to see that things are moving forward, although I know it's always kind of disappointing and frustrating when you see those numbers come in, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
So refresh us, please. What is the amount that we projected? And what is the Stanton grant amount, or
Yep.
the percentage? And at a high level, what are we expected to scale back on based on kind of those visuals that we saw?
Sure. So the Stanton grant is $250,000, and then we were awarded $107,000 in ARPA money. So we have a total of $357,000. And the biggest things that we're scaling back on, the shade structure, which I know might be disappointing to some, but That was a cost driver, and the thickness of the pea stone, we're still within the limits that Stanton sets, but our architect made some calls himself, and I guess pea stone is very expensive right now, so reducing the thickness of that, those were the two big cost drivers.
Okay, and so those are the only elements that have been eliminated?
At this point, yeah.
Okay.
And then, and all of the trees, the additional trees that he was going to add, those have been taken out as well.
On the perimeter.
And, yeah,
Yep.
and any place agility structures, but the size of the park remains the same.
Do we anticipate to have any trees, or are they proposing to remove all of those trees?
For now, all of them. And they'll be able, yeah,
Plus
all additional.
Plus the shade structure.
Mm-hmm.
So is there going to be any shade in that area at all? Do we anticipate?
Just the way the bid, if I may, the way the bid is being structured, those will be alternates, and the priority order is shade structure. So if the bids come in low enough and we have the capacity to fund, the shade structure is the first priority. So we would add that, and then the next
Trees were
would be
next.
trees.
And then the agility features, we even paired those out to have one agility feature, a second one, instead of grouping them all together. So,
So the hope is based on getting more bidders, the time of year, whereas they're completing their work right now, we're hoping we get more because they're starting to look to when they complete this round of projects. So the hope is we'll have more bidders, they'll be more competitive, and then with those, the way we've structured the bid, to the extent that we have funding, we could award for those items.
So the bidders, just for clarification, the bidders will actually be offered the opportunity to add those incrementally to their bid?
They have to provide prices for those,
Okay.
and then you look at the total, yes.
Yep, okay, so base project,
Yes.
and then plus the
the shade structure
add-ons,
would be
yeah.
this,
Okay.
trees would be that.
Okay, and we're providing clarity in the bid process around our prioritization of those
Yes.
items? Okay, awesome. Okay, and what is remind me the construction date if all goes well with this?
So typically our procurement officer said 30 days after a contract closes. So we were using a rough date of November 1st,
Okay.
which I know we're heading into winter. So we've, within the RFP, we've built that in to give contractors ample time to complete the project,
Okay.
giving them till the beginning of May.
And as long as because there's ARPA funds,
Right.
as long as we're
In a
under
contract.
contract by December 31, right?
Right.
Then-
So we may enter into a contract understanding the
Yep.
work depending on how the winter goes, when the work actually starts.
Yeah, backhoes do amazing work, so you can put a fence in almost any time. Thank you.
No, I think it just makes it important to also establish the gift account, so we
Yep.
can accept gifts for for these things if we can't afford it from the money that we have.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. I would agree with that as well. I'm just curious, with our tree program in town, is there any, and also the concept of donations, is there any opportunity, and unfortunately Chris left, I'm just curious, is there any opportunity for citizens, or if there's any ability for the DPW? I'm not sure where the cost is associated with the tree. Is it the tree itself, or is it the installation of the tree? And I'm just wondering if there's like anything we can do.
Yeah.
I've got extra trees in my yard, small. I mean, if we need to, right? I mean,
A vendor that I talked to, it was the cost of trees and the time of
Okay.
year also drives the cost because
Yeah.
you have to buy them now, store them, and then you don't know when you're planting them. So, but yeah, I think that I could certainly work with Chris on seeing if there was something that we could be done in-house.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
we also, I know that the tree program that they have are like little mini trees,
A lot
so,
bigger, yeah.
so,
Right.
you know, I think it's a great idea,
Yeah,
but I
no,
think it's a
I'm-
question around labor as well, like who's doing the labor and is there opportunity?
Yeah.
And the spring might be a better time
Oh,
anyways. for-
absolutely. I'm just trying to feel if in fact, you know, I don't want to be too much of a devil's advocate here, but, you know, if in fact the price doesn't come to a point where we want it,
Mhm.
and that's something we need to remove, I think shade for dog park is super important for
Mhm.
those animals.
Mhm.
So just being creative in how, is there a way that we can do that? I'm sure that
Yep.
there's lots of pet owners in the community that would probably step up and offer something potentially. So they don't have to be the little itty bitty trees.
Yeah,
so.
no. you're right.
But thank you, Jen. I appreciate you coming in and
course.
talking
Yeah,
with us.
absolutely.
So I move to establish a gift account for the dog parks, to be expended under the direction of the recreation director for purposes of development and maintenance of dog parks.
Second.
Real quick, I didn't hear from Alan. Alan, did you have any questions? I forgot you were out there.
No further questions.
All right, thank you. So we got a second. Any other questions? Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Alan?
Edinburgh, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you again, Jen. Move to item 4, special town meeting warrant discussion, including presentations by the rec director and finance director.
So if we can start with recreation.
Okay.
Hi, Jen Kirkland, Recreation Director. I'm actually going to turn it over to Matt Griffith, our golf manager. He has a short presentation about the cart path repair project that we're hoping to fund this fall.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Welcome.
So, for our
Oh, I thought Jen
warrant.
did. Did you? I'm sorry. Did you? Just need
Oh,
just
yeah,
introduce
I am
yourself.
Matt Griffith, PGA professional at Westborough Golf Club, and we've asked for a warrant to do some cart path work on the golf course. Let's get this going here. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, this works. All right, so we would like the $25,000 the purpose of redoing cart paths on 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to show some pictures of the current cart paths just because they are worn down, causing some considerable issues on the golf course. We're going to start with number 4, Greenside. This cart path here is luckily we haven't had a whole lot of rain over the last month, but this is a huge trouble spot on the golf course. It gets muddy and water, and nobody uses the cart path. They'll go around it, and it starts tearing everything else up. This area right here is a big area that causes some issues, and then we've already started the project on adding some drainage to the right-hand side to kind of get that water flowing in the right area. This is a different view of the cart path, and obviously you can see on top of the fact that it's not functional, it just looks horrible. It's bumpy, when I'll get into a little bit of that, but then as you can see a little bit better shot of the area that we've already added some drainage in. This is a close-up version of the cart path. It has all the runoff from water over the past years. Not very smooth at all. I ride around all the time, and your back gets a little sore after getting all the bumps. This is a picture that shows a lot of the washout that has been happening because there's no real area for the water to go because it's just being torn apart every time it rains. Last year, actually, here, one more shot of the little washout area. Last year we did a expansion to the 5th tee box. So we had to move the old cart path that was basically just gravel. And we now have moved it in front of the 5th tee. So we want to make that an actual path because as you can see, that's where the golfers have just gone this year. We didn't even lay that path out. That's just from where everything is going. So that, when it gets rainy, is just pure mud. So we want to make that a nice cart path, and as it goes in, we want to have it 2 lanes deep because right now it's only enough for 1 cart path and everyone goes around. And again, drives in areas where they really shouldn't be. And then we're going to clean up this whole kind of loop around area. This is right by the back tee on 5, and be able to, make some flower beds there and just make it more visually appealing. 6 is probably the worst cart path that we have going into the greens. This picture really doesn't do it justice. How bumpy and how just horrible it is. All that washes out whenever we get a rain, and it just gets bigger every single time. I tried to focus in a little bit, where we want people to go and where then they actually go. And then I tried to get a good picture here of how bumpy it is, but we actually had someone last week wasn't paying attention, hit that bump, and the passenger got ejected out of the golf cart. So it's a big bump in that area, and if you're not paying attention, it is a safety hazard. So this is what we would like the cart paths all the way around to look like. This is on the third hole, which was done properly. The hole looks great. There's no washouts. There's no anything. And this is also a hole where we get a lot of water runoff and drainage. So the fact that it still holds up, this is kind of our whole goal. So in this project, we're going to be paving 4, 5, and 6 in those areas that I just showed you. We're going to add some more drainage. We'll grade it out, especially on 4. We're going to raise that area up a little bit. That's why we already pre-did the drainage on that right side. Going to add some loam, seed, and turf, and all that. So the biggest reasons why this is needed is functionality. When cart paths are in the shape that they're in, no one uses them and ends up tearing up the turf instead of using the path. Safety, as I just mentioned, you can't get thrown out of a cart. We've had some issues with golf cart damage because the leaf springs aren't just meant for all that abuse. Looks and aesthetics, which for a golf course is huge. And the biggest thing, it's the number one complaint that we actually get at our golf course is on course conditions is cart paths. You know, which you really wouldn't think of, but we actually get it quite a bit because the golf course is always in tremendous shape and it's definitely an eyesore. And that will be it. And if you have any questions, love to answer them.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us. I'll look to the board, see if there's any questions or comments.
Just as a comment, I don't know if you said it, Matt, but just for the public to know, the request is to come out of retained earnings. So
Yes.
this is basically the free cash that comes off the golf course operation. So it's not funded by the taxpayers, just to be clear.
Right.
On
Yes, exactly.
And, yeah, a couple of questions. So is this work that the contractor for the greens and all will do, or do we bid it out?
There will be some, we've already gotten a couple quotes for the actual paving aspect. We'll do a lot of the work for the grading and the seeding and the turf. We'll do all that, but the paving work we've already quoted out.
Okay, and so when you say we, because we have we, the town, which you and
Yeah.
Jen and others represent, and then we have a subcontractor relationship with the greenskeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so who is we?
Well, he had the quotes come into us. So he got the quotes from people and then gave them to us.
Okay, but not to be nitpicky here, so subcontractor, I get like asphalt, someone's gonna come in and do that, but is Mike Hightower's company, I'm blanking on what it is right now, what his business is called, is he doing the work? Like the draining and all of that?
Yes,
And
he'll
he's
be doing-
subcontracting out portions of that?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. It's
Yeah,
just,
no
I
problem.
wasn't sure if the we was the town, like Chris's team is doing
Oh,
some.
no, I was thinking my team.
That's fine, totally fine, just, I had another question. And we're confident that all this work can be done with 25,000?
Yes. Yeah,
We
with
feel
the work we've already done, with the quotes we've received, it will cover everything.
Okay. I feel like I had another question, but it might come back.
We'll come back to you if you
Thank
need to. Alan, did you have anything? No. So I guess my quick question to you is the paving. I couldn't really tell from the picture. Is that just compressed stone or is it asphalt? That you're putting in?
That was kind of compressed stone and it's kind of falling apart. What we want to do is asphalt.
Okay, you are doing
That's
asphalt.
what number 3 is. We want to take do it right the right way, so we don't have to worry about this in another
Gotcha. It
5-6 years.
It looked really nice. So
Yeah, that's why we're going the avenue that we're going.
okay. Great. Did you come back?
I did,
All
see,
right.
just needed a moment. I don't know, does conservation get involved with any of this work, given the location of the golf course? Like, do they have to prove this because you're adding impervious surface? Is that part of, like, permitted work? I don't know.
I honestly don't know. It's not near any wetlands or anything like that, but I honestly
Okay.
I'd have to check with that one.
Basically, I'm gonna talk to Jen Miller to just make sure before town meeting,
Okay.
to make sure that all of our bases are covered.
Yeah, you
with
just
that.
don't want any surprises,
Yes,
like someone brings that
uh-huh,
up.
exactly,
Yep,
yep.
okay, good, all right, good. Someone's got that ball and we'll run with it. Excellent, no pun intended, so, okay.
No pun intended, would you say?
Oh.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in tonight and
Oh,
talking to us. I
my
don't think
pleasure.
we need any motion or anything like that. So
No, thank you.
appreciate the
Thanks
information.
very much, Matt.
All right. And we'll look for John. Terrific. So article.
the whole team here. It's great.
I think it's going to be
Good evening, John Steinberg, Finance Director, I almost said Chief Assessor, Finance Director and Chief Assessor. Thank you for having us tonight. I want to introduce Barbara Walls, who you know but don't see a lot. She's our Treasurer Collector, and she has here with her Dave Schiller, who is from Rockland Trust, to give you some more information about the Prudent Investor warrant article.
Thank you, John. Welcome. Just please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Barbara Walls, Treasurer Collector. Hello.
And I'm Dave Schiller from Rockland Trust.
So the prudent investor rule has been passed around for many, many years, and the Mass Treasurer Collectors worked with the state and our legislative committee, and they finally got it passed in conjunction with the MMA. It was voted on last August, and one of the requirements is to bring it to the town and have it voted at town meeting. So that's why I'm here, to present it to you in the town meeting to see if they will vote on it. And Dave is going to discuss and tell us all about the pros and cons, and he's our investment advisor. So I'll let Dave take it over.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Appreciate that. Do you have the material in front
We
of you?
do, yes.
Okay, so easier for me to just work with that rather than...
Although Westborough TV is recording it, so
Oh.
if you can work the slides so
Yes,
people can
please
follow
advance
along.
them as
Thank
you
you.
go.
Okay, I'll do this.
Or someone can.
Okay, great. So, again, Dave Schiller, Rockland Trust. We've been an advisor of yours since 2019. And if you look on page 2, you can get a sense of what it is that we do for you. We manage the trust funds, your OPEB account, and then a couple of stabilization account and affordable housing trust. So we've been a partner of yours for quite some time. And with the trust funds, they've always been subject to what's called the Mass Legal List. And that list was developed several years ago prior to the internet. And what the thinking has always been that it needed to be somewhat defensive. So should something happen, something go bump at night, the funds that you have would be safe and sound, so to speak. Trust funds, because of how they're what they're for, they're long term. They have a horizon that's in perpetuity. Funds were left to the town, not for the town. So the town is the custodian of the funds. So last August, it finally came into vote, and it was passed that the trust funds can now be managed like as a prudent investor, which is very similar to an OPEB account or a retirement type account. So what needs to happen, and you can see on page 3, the steps: you got to obtain a vote from the town entities. You have to amend the investment policy, and then you have to look at the funds to see if they need to be disaggregated from some of the funds that they're already with. But in your situation, you do not, because all your trust funds are in one pooled account. So just to give you a sense of why we think this should be done, is if you look at what is out there for the investable universe, there's quite a few stocks, bonds, funds, however else. With the Mass Legal List, there's only 22 stocks that you can invest in. And they were names that were put together back before the internet. So we think that being able to move away from that, become more diverse, allows you to take advantage of a different risk spectrum, not saying more risk, but a different risk spectrum that allows you to let the trust funds essentially grow in perpetuity. So it creates a little bit more diversification. You're allowed to get access to some of the names and the stocks that you hear about these days. Not that you want to have a full exposure to them, but the high flyers of the Magnificent Seven or the FANGs, whatever they're calling them these days, want to make sure you have some exposure to that. So trying to become more diverse, become full exposure to the different sectors, we feel that it makes sense, and we feel that with the long-term nature of the trust funds, it should be managed like an OPEB. Right? Again, just to get a little bit more detail on the Mass Legal list, on the right side, it's really mostly about equities. The fixed income, we can replicate, we can still find some of the same exposure for the fixed income names, but on the equity side, it's not as easy. With 22 names, you only have one tech stock, which is HP. Think about that, where you should be in, a Microsoft or a Amazon and some of those different types of tech names. And then you have Unilever is the only other consumer discretionary name, which think about all the names that you're not getting in that. So it's really, and that's a Walmart in Europe, basically. So being able to add diversification to the trust funds allows them the ability to grow more and to perhaps add more gifts to different students graduating or however you're using the scholarships these days. All right. And I think I mentioned, on page 6 here, we talk about the universe. This page I think is really important because if you look on the right side of the page, you can see all the, the few names that you're able to invest in.
Wow.
Okay. Whereas the prudent investor allows all that entire universe that you can pick names. And again, we would manage these funds in line with your investment objective. And right now your investment objective is moderate. So you would still stay, stocks between 30 and 60% in terms of what we would want to own. Bonds on the other side of that would be between 40 and the difference there.
40 and 70.
40, exactly. So, but we have a lot more to choose from if you're looking at the prudent investor. So we really think that this slide shows what you're missing out on, okay? And then what it might look like in terms of your portfolio going forward. If you look on pages 7 and 8, what I have here is your trust fund on page 7, and you can see the few colors on that pie chart, where if you look on the next page, there's a number more colors. So it really shows some more of the diversification. You can see the percentage of what we would use in the market value would still remain the same in terms of the fixed income and the common stock, but we would be able to add in many more types of stocks and or funds, okay? And then as far as more proof in the pudding, if you go to the last 2 pages, again, this isn't going to be, exact as to what it would be, but you can see the differences of the performance of the 2 funds. They've both been managed since June of 2019. The overall fund for the trust fund is 5.85%, and the OPEB is 8.09%. The OPEB's a little bit more, is balanced, so it's a little bit more aggressive than the trust fund, but it has a lot more of the diversified names that we've talked about in terms of being able to add a lot more investment classes to it. So that's quick, high level. Happy to take any questions. I know it's something that several cities and towns are looking at, and many have already adopted it. And it's not something that if you adopt immediately, you have to do it immediately. You can have it here, ready to go if and when you decide that you'd like to go ahead and move into the trust funds, or move the trust funds into the prudent investor.
Okay, we'll open it up. Questions? Okay.
I don't have a question. I think it makes total sense. I mean, and I think back to your page 9 here, when you look at just the equity, because you're limited, and look at the returns versus the S&P 500 large cap stock universe, it's, we're missing out on so much, even if you went into an S&P 500 index fund.
It really, that's really the the proof in the pudding there.
Right.
Again, and if you look at the S&P 500, the top 10 make up 37% of the S&P 500, and only one name is on the Mass Legal list, Eli Lilly. So that really shows what you're missing out on. And some people may say, oh, we don't want to get into the high flyers, but it's not like we're making a huge bet on those. It's really just trying to make sure that we add that exposure to the portfolio.
Yeah, it's all about diversification. So I'm glad the state finally allowed for this. I think we should adopt it. So I have no question. I'm just fully supportive. It just makes total sense.
Just a couple questions. First of all, Ian, thank you for weighing in. I know this is your area of expertise as well, so I really respect your thoughts on this. Just a couple of questions. So OPEB is currently managed under a broader list, is that what I'm-
Correct. It's under the
okay.
prudent investor
It
list
is,
right now.
okay.
So think of it as a retirement or a pension plan. So-
Okay, all right, thank you. I just want to make sure I was understanding that. And then, when you mentioned sort of we wouldn't have to move things right away, I guess I'm looking to our town manager. Would that be an action of the board to make a decision, or does that fall under, how does that mechanism work, or decision?
Do you want to speak to that, Barbara?
Yeah, whomever. Sorry.
Yeah, the treasurer collector is the custodian of all the trust funds and whatnot, so I would work in conjunction with our investor
Okay.
to make sure that the
The
town's
timing
money-
and all of that. Okay, great. Just want to know who had that ball.
We also have trustees of trust funds
Yeah.
Trusts, yeah.
that you work
Yeah.
with.
Okay, thank
It's really
you.
just, it's an investment objective form that we have on, we already have one on file. We would just change it from, check the mark from, to prudent investor from Mass Legal List.
Okay,
And then we
super.
can go ahead and make the changes.
And just remind me, what is the reporting feedback mechanism between Rockland Trust and the treasurer collector, finance department? Like, are you, I don't think we necessarily get those updates like on a quarterly basis, but what is that reporting structure like?
I mean,
How frequently are you kind of providing updates?
We provide monthly
Monthly, okay.
reporting.
Okay.
And then we also have, segregating accounting as well, too, that shows all the different
Okay.
scholarship trusts that are in there.
Okay,
And it's all rolled up into one fund, so
Okay.
they're all managed the same way.
okay. And do we, I just don't remember, do we get those updates at any point? Not monthly, I don't want them monthly, I don't even want them quarterly, but do we get sort of an update on how things are performing? Or will we, given this change?
You don't now, but I think there's an investment committee.
Yeah.
Tony Ash, I think,
Yeah.
is on
Yeah, the
that.
trustees.
Yeah, and the
committee.
trustees.
Oh, the
Yeah.
trustees, okay.
We
Yeah,
don't, we
trustees.
haven't been giving
Okay.
regular updates,
Yeah.
but, certainly once this moves forward, we could provide an update.
Yeah, I don't think the reporting changes, it's just our investments.
Yeah, our
will
investments.
change.
Right, and we come in on a regular basis, at least once a year, just to review the portfolio, and
Yeah.
if there's anything that's, off track, then we discuss that, and so on, so.
You also do get within the presentations that we give, financial reports, there is a line item for investment revenue.
Okay.
So there is an item that shows you
Okay.
what we've earned on our income.
We might think about that even as an update, not to necessarily drag you in, Dave, but, Barbara and John, at some point, it might just be helpful. I think the public would be interested, we're making this change, and how is it performing, even if it's on a kind of an annual basis.
Yeah, I think we've done that. I mean, I know Tony and the trustees have come in and presented, so
Yes.
maybe we just put it on an agenda
Yeah,
for once a
yeah,
year.
at
I think
some
that
point.
makes sense.
Whatever the timing is. Thank you. All right, those are my questions. Thank you very much. I'm fully supportive.
All right, thanks. Alan?
Yes, the town has multiple trust funds, and the time horizon for the Affordable Housing Trust is probably a bit shorter than the other trust funds. I'm wondering if the specific portfolio for the different funds would actually be tuned a little bit to their expected time window of use of funds.
I'm sorry, did you say the Affordable Housing Trust?
Yes.
That's not,
Yeah, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund,
that's not part of,
As a-
that's not part of this, the prudent investor rule. Affordable Housing Trust,
Okay.
as far as I know, those are town funds,
Okay.
right? So they need to be more on the Mass Legal List, usually a shorter duration as well, too. Right, so this is really only for donated trust funds such as scholarship, cemetery trust, library trust. So these are funds that you've been entrusted with as custodian, so they're not taxpayers' money, so to speak.
So, although it's listed here on the second page,
clarification.
It is, but that's a separate account. So there's four funds here.
yep,
So we're talking only really about the trust fund, the top one.
okay.
I just wanted to show those to say, here's our relationship with
Okay.
Westborough.
So the stabilization affordable housing trust, and to Alan's point, I think those are
Those are off the
fixed
table in
income
terms
term,
of,
they're- yeah.
yeah, those stay as is.
So, but under this change, sorry to interrupt, if Alan was going here, are those eligible to change?
No.
No,
They're
they're
really
stuck
not,
in MIL, whatever.
Yeah, they're,
Okay.
if you read the legislature, they're kind of stuck in the mass legal list, which is
Okay.
the right place for them.
Okay.
A lot of them don't even go into the mass legal list. They just stay in whether it's treasuries or money markets.
Okay.
So depending on
they're very conservative, yeah, which is
how
what
and
you
when the
want.
funds are needed. So.
I'll take your word for it.
Yep. I think it goes back to Allison's thing, Alan's comments, is that you want those to be conservatively invested because we're using them more frequently. So the time frame for use is not perpetuity, it's really more immediate.
Right. And the way that we have the accounting set up, there's an expendable and a non-expendable piece of the, it all rolls up into the one number. But the non-expendable is what you want to have grow. That's the part that you're growing, and I think that's the part that really should be a little bit more diversified.
Understood. Thank you.
So I just had one question. It's for Christy. You mentioned the amend the current investment policy statement. Is that part of the financial policy, or is that a different document that needs to be?
We have a separate investment policy
Okay.
that was approved by the board.
Okay.
So that'll have to come back to us.
You'll have to come back. Right? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Barbara.
the information, and look forward to hopefully getting this through town meeting.
Great.
Very supportive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 5, concurrence of the finance director appointment.
So this is similar to other financial positions, department head positions that have come before you recently. This is the board's concurrence with my appointment of John Steinberg as the finance director. Just to sort of recap, we amended the general bylaws back in March to remove the town accountant responsibilities from the finance director. At the time, we also had within the bylaw the appointing authority being with the town managers with concurrence of the select board. That specificity was removed from the bylaw, and so we are asking that the board move forward with my appointment and your concurrence, similar to how we appoint the 3 department heads under the finance director. We did go through a process, as you're aware. We advertised and received applications, and we actually convened 3 panels, which was a senior leadership panel. We also had the school department, their finance director, as well as our treasurer collector and town accountant as a panel for that interview process. And then we had a 3rd panel, which was the chairs and vice chairs of this board, and also the advisory finance committee. And everyone was unanimously in support of John. And so I would ask you to concur with my appointment.
Thank you, Christy. Any questions or comments? Alan? No? Okay. Then I'll look for a motion.
So I'd move to concur with the town manager's appointment of John Steinberg beginning September 11, 2024, for a term to expire on June 30, 2027.
Second.
First, before we have a vote, I'll just say thank you for John for applying for the position and going through the process. And now I'll take a vote. Alan?
Yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Christy. Item 6, the golf club building update and municipal building committee.
Sorry, Joe, we just sort of voted and like, there he goes. Get back to work, right?
Sorry, I'm moving on. Sorry. I was looking for one of you guys, and
I
you
know,
did.
sorry,
so.
sorry.
All right, yeah, so moving on to item 6, golf club building update, municipal building committee. Welcome. Lots of faces. Come on in and introduce yourself, and just speak closely to the microphone for those on TV.
I'm Al Gordon, Chairman of the Municipal Building Committee. We have the representatives from BFE here, our architects, who will explain a little bit of what we've done so far to get to the point where they've given us a couple proposals, and we're just following up with that and want to make the board aware of what's going on.
Terrific. Welcome.
Yeah,
Glad to
so
have you.
I'm Arthur Love with BFE Architects. This is Lauren Mitchell.
Hello.
We've been working with the Municipal Building Committee for the last couple months. We've been tasked to study what a potential renovation option would look like, as well as a new construction. And we've over the last couple months, we've vetted a bunch of different designs, and the building committee has kind of helped to develop the program that what could be for this potential project, as well as right now underway are cost estimates that should be getting back later this week, and that'll kind of help determine what direction this potential project could go. So what we put together was some things that we've presented already. We've been pricing two different options. One is a renovation option, one is a new construction. This is the renovation option, in which we've also been in contact with the Historic Commission, because that is one of the things that we're not trying to put something that doesn't belong in this part of town, as it's kind of a continuation of the downtown
District.
the historic district. We kind of identified the front farmhouse of it's the oldest part of the
that existing building.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of been added on to over its lifespan, but that's part of the original element of that building, and you know, the Greek Revival style farmhouse there.
Yeah, so we did some research on, there was actually a Form B application.
I think the Historic Commission started something.
Yeah, so we would get to use old images and kind of recreate what was there and kind of bring it back to its former glory. Right now the porch is enclosed, and so kind of bringing back some of the older elements of the design. Working with the Golf Pro shop and the Golf Pro of kind of where the best situation of where the pro shop is, being able to see the first green and the ninth tee, so that he can operate it, and really condensing the program. There was a lot of underutilized space in the current Golf Pro shop area. There's one little room that gets used about once a year. There's locker rooms. It's not a country club. It's a town course. It's not what's kind of the best use
space,
going right now. So we've been able to shrink the pro shop, and we're trying to keep everything on one level for accessibility.
You know, there was a previous assessment of that building done, and there's some accessibility issues, egress issues from that existing basement, and you know, it's an old farmhouse that was turned into a restaurant, so it's a lot of very small spaces that are kind of oddly connected. So when we took a stab at a renovation option, kind of to best utilize the existing footprint, just partially due to some significant floor level changes between that existing farmhouse structure and then pro shop that was added on at a much later date, which is kind of at grade, we ended up proposing this option to really save the front two-story gable option of that farmhouse and put a large addition on the rear, which would allow, you know, the restaurant space to be at a continuous level all the way back without having to really retrofit that existing pro shop space, which would be costly, and you know, you start running into head height issues and, you know, changing roof lines, and you know, it's pretty similar to you know, what you would do with an addition anyways.
And one of the other things items that came out of the programming exercise was, you'll see in this particular design, there's kind of a private dining room, kind of the more formal in the front, and there's a bar, kind of tavern-y feel in the back. They kind of, currently in the old one, it was kind of cloistered, and as much as that's not efficient, they did like the idea of that if you're a golfer coming off, you're going to have
more separate space.
Yeah, and if you're kind of hot and sweaty coming off the golf course, that's kind of for that area where you could still have a dining hall. But then the idea is that if you're a restaurant owner, you're bringing in that business. The private dining room could be cordoned off pretty easily for a private function space. So whether it's trophies, whether it's private parties or whatnot.
Big
So
banquets and
Yeah.
tournaments to kind of,
versus one big open restaurant.
yeah, increase potential revenue and give the golf club a space that they could hold an event and have it be catered right on the course, and hopefully draw in some more interest in holding tournaments and other events.
So once we came up with the two design options that were kind of selected to move forward, we then started playing with the forms and what the renders are. So this is the next evolution of
Made
the
it
plan.
a little more real.
Yeah, and then we have some images of what the street. You can really see that front volume and the porch is really trying to just bring back what it used to be, as well as tying it into the rest of the building. And our goal is for that as you're coming down, it's going to look like it's always been there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we took, this is very conceptual at this stage. We put together some floor plans that kind of work and meet the goals of the program we had, developed through the process, and then we have these, rendered images to kind of give you an idea of what it could look like. Nothing's set in stone or final, but just how we may be able to restore that front volume and add on in the back in a way that doesn't compete with it, but also still provides you a golf facility that is going to meet the needs of that golf course, and also provide you with, a lot newer, utilities, construction methods, be a little more energy efficient, because we're really replacing about 50% of that structure. And this really keeps the proposed building in the same footprint as what is there now. So there's not any major site changes with this plan option. Part of the feasibility study was to also look at what would happen if you just constructed a new building on that site. And the existing building is tucked in. It's right against the existing parking lot. The putting green is right there on the right-hand side, and it backs up onto the cart path. So there's not a huge buildable footprint without really getting into some serious site works and upgrades. And when we were looking at this, one of the options we came up with that the municipal building committee liked and ended up selecting as the one to further develop was a 2-story golf clubhouse option, because it really minimizes the footprint on that lot, and it allows us the option to add some more parking space into the site and increase the numbers of parking spots, because we've heard through this process that parking can be really challenging, especially in the summer. If you got longer days, people are playing golf later, and if the restaurant's, open, and we heard that the last restaurant there was pretty popular and it could get very, very busy. And in this option, the pro shop stays, in a similar position to where it is now in that left corner. So you have that sight lines, people see the door, will be able to see the door and know where to go if they're coming to the course. And we kept it the same program layout, office, some storage, bathroom facilities, and the pro shop area. In this layout, we kind of have restaurant space on both levels. You have a central core that's a shared space, with a elevator, stairs, access from the front and back. We show some covered porch spaces on the front to kind of tie back into the language of that area and of the existing building that was there. And on the back, we have a covered patio, which on the second level has deck space. And we kind of handled this by keeping some back of house kitchen space on the first floor, the bar on the first floor, and we imagine that the second level will be all leasable space for the restaurant and act as the majority of their dining room with a deck overlooking that golf course.
Yeah, having it elevated, that the second floor or the second level, I mean, you're up above everything. You've got that hill in the background. It's a really beautiful view. So we're just really trying to maximize the length of that. And we see that the upstairs is more of the formal dining, and you have that kind of bar casual dining for the golfer that's coming off the course, or just somebody who wants a quick bite and a drink, and in that way. So. Yeah,
so we made it a little more real in our once that had been selected, to make sure that everything kind of worked out with the space constraints.
Can I just ask a question
Yeah.
on the numbering on this slide? A11 before I head is the renovation.
Yeah, we had kind of put together two sets. So there's a renovation.
Okay, this is for the
There's a
the
renovation
new-
set and new
Okay, thanks.
construction.
All right. I
Yeah,
be
we-
confused.
The
Our-
numbering gets
That's okay.
When
It
we
can get
when we have
confusing.
4 or 5 options at a time that we
That's fine. I
we
just wanna
can
make
probably
sure
yep.
Yeah.
Following the story here.
Oh,
Which is
yeah.
A11 because it's the first floor, A12 is the second floor for
Yep.
the two-story.
For the two-story. Got it.
Yeah, we kind of do the one as
That's fine.
plan.
You're good.
But yeah, just, this option also has that space that could act as a function room when needed and be dining space when not, just a space that could seat about 60 people and be divided off and be rented out and receive catering from the restaurant.
In both options, we tried to match the occupancy of the existing because that's how big the parking lot was. So it's not like we're creating a 10,000 square foot restaurant. It's in kind of what was there, so that we're not really going
Yeah.
super over the
Both-
top for needing more parking, which we're not going to really be able to find other than this option, or like a sewer and extra utilities that we don't need to bring to the site.
And that's a good point. Both options are roughly equivalent in floor area. It differs a little bit. And we do show some occupancy numbers on these slides that are slightly higher than what is there currently, but that's a lot to do just with the fact that this is going to be a leasable space and we're not necessarily providing a fixed seating plan, floor plan. It kind of is up to the person that comes in, and that the type of seating you put in drastically changes your occupancy numbers. So we've tried to keep it at a good point where they can meet that. The original occupancy was 103, maybe add a couple more seats, but have adequate, back of house storage space and facilities, which the previous restaurant that was at that clubhouse did not have.
A kitchen that works.
Yeah,
Yeah,
lots of
right.
kitchen space. And then we just, put some renders like a new building, what would that look like? And, the goal is to really maintain the aesthetic of the existing structure and the details and carry that over into the construction.
So orientate us here. Is that the side that's facing the golf course?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
the park-
deck
well,
Yeah,
out
the-
the back.
Yeah,
Facing
we're
the
kinda
golf
in
course.
the parking lot where the golf carts would go. The golf course, the hill is to your left.
So
Okay.
looking straight at it, that would be where you enter into the golf shop.
Yeah.
That's
You're-
coming off the parking lot.
You're looking from the left side over here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It almost has two fronts. You have the front you see from the street, and then from the parking lot, you have this front face that, if you're an actual golfer coming to the course, that would be your main point of entry.
So that's kind of where we're at right now. We meet with the building committee every other we're meeting with them Thursday. They haven't seen these images, so it's kind of a
We see them now.
sneak peek.
Sneak peek for us.
But that's and like I said, we've got cost estimates ongoing right now. One of the other tasks we were asked to do is, as you can see, we're developing the plan. Even though it's conceptual, it's getting people talking, which is really exciting. We've talked with restaurant consultants, so that's going to be a big kind of how far do we go with that, just because we're architectural designers. As much as we've designed some kitchens, we don't know equipment counts, and so some consultants will be able to easily conceptually say, you know what, this kitchen is pretty in good shape. It could have I could see a restaurant owner coming in and say, okay, I can see my business, I can see my menu, I can see the logistics of this thing. And they can also do profit and loss projections based on the seating counts.
Some
and
rough ideas of
so
potential
to help
numbers.
project of that you're not just spending a bunch of money to not sure how much you're going to get in return, which might be valuable to putting an RFP out for when you guys look to lease out to a restaurateur.
And they
So-
also just have a lot of good connections in the area in case to try to kind of market as well that this might be an opportunity for people or restaurants in the area.
Yeah, well, that's where we're at we're kind of coming to the end of the feasibility study portion.
So, yeah.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah, we'll have our kind of what we're more familiar with, these drawings and renders and packages, and then we'll have those cost estimates so you get a total idea moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open up to the board to see if there's any questions or comments.
Ian, do you want to start or
No, the comment being the board's member on the municipal building committee, I mean, the work these guys have done, as you can see, has been great. They've really worked with us. They gave us the designs, answered a lot of questions. I think the municipal building committee itself is really listening to the public. I think that's why we went back with the 2 designs, the renovation. We heard that loud and clear. Let's look at both. So that's why we chose those for the multiple designs. But I think we're making progress as we asked the architects to do, which is a tight time frame, and appreciate it. And I'm excited to see these pictures look better than the last meeting we had, which these look great. So I'm excited
it's
for the rest of
amazing,
the committee to see those on Thursday morning as well.
Putting it into
But
context.
just open up to questions. We've asked a lot of questions in our meetings. So.
Yeah.
So, first of all, great presentation, thank you. Thank you to all the members of the Municipal Building Committee. I've had the chance to watch a couple of your meetings, not all of them. So really appreciate the conversations, the thoughts, the questions, the back and forth that has gone into it. So thank you so much. Could you go back to the floor 1 of this rendering of the replace? Okay, so you've got the pro shop and all on the left.
Yes.
Entryway on the front is designed for, I see a set of stairs there.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me with grade level changes. So am I walking in there to walk up to the 2nd floor?
Yes.
Okay, and that's the dining area, and then it looks like if I were just a dining patron, I'm not playing golf, I'm walking in through this entrance, right?
Yes.
Okay, but it looks like I'd have to go up a set of stairs to get to the elevator, and I know this is just conceptual. So are we requiring everyone to go through the pro shop to get to the elevator?
No, it's a little misleading because we sometimes show overhead lines, but
Okay.
basically where it says hall, that would all be open. It'd be like a case
Okay.
opening. So you could go up the stairs, you could straight through and get the elevator up the stairs, and then, or you could just kind of actually walk through that space out to the back.
Okay, so you can
Or you can
actually
also walk into the bar area.
And you
Yeah.
walk into the
And that's
bar.
all
It would all be open,
Yeah.
So I could walk in through, straight back to the foyer and take a right and go to the bar?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got it, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see probably 90%. If you're coming to the restaurant, you're gonna go up the front. You're gonna go the
Yep.
stair, the elevator upstairs. If you're a golfer, I'd probably say 90% of them are gonna put their carts, their
They're
clubs
gonna walk,
away,
yeah.
and they're gonna come in the
Yeah.
back door, or they're gonna.
Well, I'm probably gonna walk straight through and take a right, just so you
Yeah.
know, so. Okay, and then you have dedicated, because I know that was one of the conversations you guys went back and forth on, do you have shared bathrooms and shared kind of, so here you have on the right side, lower.
Yes, we have dedicated bathroom facilities for each tenant, basically.
For each tenant, and so, I guess during kind of pro shop golf hours and restaurant hours, are all it's unlikely someone's from the golf course is gonna walk to the front, but someone from the bar could walk across the hall to use the pro shop bathrooms like the public could, right?
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
intent? Okay, to deal with that kind of flow and traffic, okay.
Yeah, they
we
would
figured
be
there's probably some
open.
sort of. That's why there's some doors.
Yep.
If the pro shop's closed, then you can't get in
Yeah,
there.
right.
I don't think we explored this, but I think in our heads, or maybe is bathrooms from outside instead of having it internal, and then
Yeah.
but those are.
Then you worry about security and maybe
Yeah.
whatever, yeah, but.
So,
yeah. Then it
I
feels
mean,
like
it's
maybe a
good
gas
to,
station.
it's
or-
raising questions, which is good to get them out.
Sure.
Yeah,
and
it's kind of nice to have sometimes have the ability to
Yeah.
when you're done for the day, lock it.
Yep.
It's done.
this is ours, that's
Sure.
yours. and-
Well, I know Matt and his team are there, they're late in the day, so while
Yeah.
that's open, it's open, and when it's closed, then you have the other facilities, okay.
And they do stack. So there's 2 bathrooms for the restaurant on the first, and then 2
Okay.
on the second. So you're not having to go up and down.
Okay. Okay.
And those are for the staff? I'm sorry, that's.
No, stacked.
Stacked. Sorry.
So it makes it easier for, I think, cheaper for
Plumbing.
construction when they're.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And most likely there would probably be a staff bathroom on
Yeah.
that second level.
That actually was going to be my question. I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
mean to
no,
jump in
no.
on you, but I was just curious about, is there a need for a staff bathroom? And I didn't see one.
We didn't include this because it's just a lot more, but we have like a full basement under this building, for storage, coolers. Mechanical space, because we're proposing an elevator, so might as well take advantage and have access
Yeah.
to all 3. So there could potentially
Could
even
put-
stack below some staff bathrooms. We just haven't really spent a lot of time trying to build out the back of house
Sure.
kitchen space, because that could get, you don't necessarily know what different people
Yeah,
or
and I think
tenants may want in
a
there.
restaurant consultant will probably have, is there an office for
Mm-hmm.
the head chef or whatnot? So
Sure.
there's probably some program that, I mean, it's good that, I mean, there's a lot here and it's brought a lot of conversation, but there's still more to go.
There's a lot, yeah.
And so I see I see kitchen, back of house on the right-hand side, so we're heading kind of toward the putting green area, kind
Yes.
of. And then there's an outline there. Is that kitchen? What is that outline, the outside the building?
It's like a fenced-in outdoor area for the restaurant if they have
Trash.
Trash to bring. Right now, the dumpster, I believe, is on the other side of the parking lot. So if they had some trash barrels for to store before the end of the night and they're cleaning up and bringing it
Okay.
out, or also potentially to hide and screen some of the mechanical and
Yeah.
equipment. There's
Okay.
going to be on that wall a lot of equipment with the kitchen.
Sure.
Or if you're bringing in dollies of
Yeah.
stuff and you just want to
So my
area.
comment is probably an obvious one there, which is you've got new parking in the front and on the side, existing parking, and you gotta go all the way, that's the downside, right? All the way
Yeah.
around the building to, like, I think the golf course uses the dumpster, I don't even know where it is now, but, like, you couldn't have a large dumpster there because the truck can't get in, right? So, anyway, you guys will figure out those details,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, well, I think today that
it's that
area was
halfway,
actually between the pro shop
Right.
and the entrance to the door, so it was kind of,
right?
It's
Not in a
somewhat of
great
a similar
spot,
setup.
but it'd be on the
On the
side.
renovation option is kind of where it was.
Yes,
On
right.
This one, there's,
Tried
I
to
mean,
hide
that's
it.
kind of one of the sacrifices.
You guys,
But yeah.
I know the committee and all, will just consider, like, how practical is that
Yeah.
there for, like, wheeling stuff around, for deliveries, for accessibility. I think that's the one thing that I saw in this design that I was like, and I know there was a question about kind of the patio level and the safety of that for golfers like Ian that might be hitting toward the clubhouse. Kidding.
if I can reach it.
I'm kidding. Around kind of safety. You do have some columns there and some, growth, so hopefully not, but.
Yeah, and this is also not quite as, if you, right at the end of the cart path, it actually goes down a little bit.
Okay.
We didn't put the building any further towards,
Okay.
but like you picked up right on it, is that we put like a stone
Yeah.
patio boundary.
Yeah.
Sure.
The screens come into play.
I mean, it's sort of the nature of being at a golf course, but the
Yeah.
town always worries about liability. All right.
Yeah, we had hoped that by bringing the dining up a full level, that outdoor space, that maybe
Yep.
that would help
Yeah,
with
Go-
some stuff.
sure.
But
Sure.
you never know because
Yeah. So, love aspects of both designs, I guess would be my comment. I think what it comes down to in many ways is how do we fund it, right? That's not
Yes.
a question to you, but I know that those are questions, and.
Not from the taxpayers.
What?
Not from the taxpayers.
Right,
That's
well,
what I've said all
so
along.
so what I don't have, and I know tonight's not the conversation, but it's like, what are the mechanisms in which we go through this process and can kind of build certainty around the funding for it, that it's the right space. I will say, my instinct is that I'd like the second version, the rebuild. The first one, and I know you guys made this comment, is in the committee, is that formal dining area, if you want to lock it off, then you have just the bar area. I feel like this gives a restaurateur a whole lot more options. I like the smaller footprint. I know this is contrary to what some people have said around adding parking, but I think we could, when that restaurant was in full swing, we needed the parking. I know we're not going to do this now, but, building the potential as we do build out for running conduit for solar to help offset costs at the restaurant or something, or bring money back to the town, how solar works, would be just a question of preparedness, not to build it now.
yeah,
So-
and that's something we run into.
Anyway, and the
a lot.
views, I mean, gosh, sunset.
That view in that
you know,
second deck
yeah,
is going to be,
Yeah, so I think
would be
it,
beautiful.
yeah, so I'm leaning this way, and great job, thank you.
Others? Sean?
Yeah, just say, sorry, coming from another meeting, I missed some of that. I look forward to watching the Municipal Building Committee meeting, 8 a.m. on Thursday, to really see the comments from those folks as they get into the details. But, what I did get the chance to see here looks terrific. Thank you very much for your efforts.
Thank you.
Alan?
Yep, thank you for getting to two really great proposals. I'm a little curious as to what the next steps are and how the decision will be made as to which proposal moves forward.
We are meeting this Thursday, Municipal Building Committee. We're going to have the proposals with the renderings that we see here. We haven't seen these yet ourselves. There will also be some prices that are going to be given to us, so we can compare, which way, we would recommend the town go. I will say, I've talked to the town manager, and we're probably going to be looking to put an article on the town meeting for a project manager, and also we may have to fund a consultant from the restaurants. We have some money left over from what was appropriated for the architect, but again, we don't know how much it's going to have to pay for somebody to come in and advise on the restaurant. So we'll see, hopefully Thursday, which way we have to go with that. But definitely, I think it will be wise to put an article on the town meeting for us.
But not from what we originally had thought, that we might go for bigger, like we know what we were doing. Now it's more of incremental.
Right.
Sorry, Chris, I cut you off.
That's okay.
Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, yeah, but do you go ahead?
I was just going to ask, remind me again, the recommendation coming out of the original golf course committee was a rebuild, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I understood that. And why don't you make your point first, because I did have a couple questions.
I was just going to talk about funding and the article, so.
Okay, why don't I ask my questions first then, or make my. So I certainly like the new building. I think it's aesthetically pleasing, and I think it offers some more options, obviously, with that second floor capability. My question is, spatial-wise, on the outdoor seating space, roughly is the space between the upper and lower section equal to or smaller than what the building has now?
I think if you're talking about square footage,
Yeah.
it's smaller, but it's a little more of a easier to lay out shape, so there's less wasted space. Yeah, so this second red dash line was the existing deck.
Right.
But you could kind of have tables in that back, slightly square portion, and then a few down below, but the majority was
The reason why I ask is I would expect that outdoor dining, especially on a night like tonight, would be really desirable. And I don't remember the table count in the current restaurant for outdoor dining, but 6 tables there. I'm assuming 6 tables above. If that's less than what we have today, it also seems a little bit narrow. When I look at the rendering, it's a narrow space. I'm imagining wait staff coming in and out. Sure. And it almost looks like it's really not desirable, or I'll say adequate space for 4-person tables as drawn. I'm thinking there might be some, especially when we're talking about wheelchairs and elderly might be coming in with walkers and whatnot. We want to make this fully accessible by all. So I'm just wondering if personally, if there's an opportunity to create more outdoor space, a little more, I'll say, room out there, and sacrifice some parking out front. I think I would be inclined to support that.
Yeah, we definitely, we kept it kind of limited for the course of the study because we could have gone so many different ways, but there's room to grow it. And because we have the smaller footprint, we currently kind of show it's not really a porch, but it's, a covered walkway into the restaurant and some green space in the sidewalk. We have room to kind of move the building, shift it closer to the street and grow that deck without impeding on the car path or getting it closer to the greens. There's definitely room to massage some of that stuff.
Yeah, and we'll get a survey and somebody officially putting parking lot spaces where.
We don't usually lay out parking lots.
Sure. Oh, you had a point about that?
Yeah, just a comment on that. One of the things we did hear about the past restaurant that was there, the issue one, the restaurant inside was so small that, and the deck was seating a lot of people. In the summer, they couldn't have people. They couldn't use all the tables inside when they're going outside, because if you had bad weather, they had to have room to move people outside in. So you do have to balance that out with how much outdoor space you have and indoor. And I think that's, again, where a restaurant consultant can really help us. But I agree, people loved the deck. We don't have a lot of them in town with that view. It's going to be prime spot. People will love sitting out, looking over the course, if we go this direction, but I hear your spot, we have to
Patrick.
look at it, but also have to balance it out with
Can
how
I
does it
just,
work.
can I add on to that
Sure.
about, so I had the same thought on the narrowness and like, is that enough? One way in which we might expand upon that is, and again, it all comes down to cost, right? But is it, those kind of walls and windows that move, so you bring the outside in.
Yep.
And so even though you're not sitting on the patio, you're like, oh, like I have an unobstructed view as
Yeah.
I'm sitting that, well, now I'm on the first one.
Even though you're inside, you feel like you're
Right,
outside.
right, and that really creates seasonality too. You can use that space for a lot longer and more use, and I think that.
Yeah.
And that, I'll call it more modern feel would be on
The backside.
The backside, so
Right.
it wouldn't take away from the historical
Great point.
nature.
Yeah, you definitely have a little more flexibility.
Yep.
And I think we also talked about like if part of it was covered, if part of it wasn't, if there were screens, if it was 3 seats. Like there's a lot of options to explore
Sure.
to potentially, weatherproof some of it, so you're still kind of like outside, but
Could do
the
covers that
cover,
came
Yeah.
down,
I
retracted,
mean,
or whatever.
awnings,
yes,
Yeah.
right, all of that stuff, right?
And then, I apologize if, I know Shelby asked a question about this space, so I'm not sure if I was taking some notes here. The back of house space on the right-hand side, I believe in the first rebuild, or not rebuild, the first renovate
Yep.
version, there was an opening on the left-hand side of the building, that kind of blank area on the left-hand side of the building, which I think is what, I saw some garage door type things, one of the renderings. I'm imagining that's where you're talking about the dumpster and the
Yeah.
material to be used. So the other side, the other rebuild version, it's way over on the right-hand side. How do you expect to get, Harvey's truck in there to get?
There was never a dumpster in that spot before. The dumpster's always been the other side.
But I'm asking now, like,
I don't think you'd put a dumpster there.
right there in the blank area
It would
now.
almost be like a satellite trash area where they
Like the
have,
boxes
yeah,
go
like
over
And have
you
cars
put out-
that you-
Why I'm asking is if it's on the right-hand side of the building during business hours, you're gonna have staff pulling trash barrels out. Probably, they're gonna have to go one way or the other
Yeah.
around the building. And I'm just curious how that, just operationally, it seems a little bit
It's
awkward.
one of the questions we would have for the restaurant consultants, is because deliveries come in first thing in the morning. Like how much should we be putting into those types of comments? And
Yeah.
that's something that once we get the actual information, I think we can massage it to hopefully. I mean, yeah, that's what we're balancing is not only a building but logistics and operations. So that's one of the things on our minds as well is
Yeah.
what is the best.
Just logistically, if I'm hearing you correctly, there's a significant desire to have that pro shop in that upper left-hand area. But if it turns out operationally for the kitchen staff and whatnot, for supplies to come in and out, trash to go in and out, is there a need to flip this?
I don't think it would work.
That I just want to kind of understand that.
Because
Yeah.
where the first tee is, which is on the far left-hand side, which is really what you control coming out of the pro shop.
That's what you want in the pro shop. Okay, I'm not a golfer, so
Yeah, no, we showed
It's
a
one
bunch
of
of
the-
different options with that
Yeah.
pro shop in different areas, and we
Yeah.
were kind of told like it needs visual access
Okay.
for the golf pro to both the first tee and the ninth green, so they can see people starting and see people coming off to do the turn to do 18.
okay.
It is one of the sacrifices
yeah.
currently, as it's shown, that this is over here. But again, once we get more information from a restaurant consultant, and they're like, you know what, it's not. If there's got to be an hour at 3:00 in the afternoon that you're only really designating running the trash out to the,
Yep.
is that okay? So,
Right.
I think
Okay,
that's
I guess we'll look for the NBC to have those questions and
Yeah, there's
for you all to.
still a lot to be further explored during the process, especially once you have like civil engineers who start laying out the hardscape, and you really see like the extent you can go and what you could
our
potentially
grades,
connect.
our
Yeah.
site survey of because this.
Yeah,
is,
we did get a significant feedback in regards to parking and the need for additional parking. So I'm not gonna. I realize you all aren't the parking experts,
Yeah.
so I'm curious to see how that conversation plays out. Impervious surface is kind of not necessarily desired these days. So,
Yeah.
but go to Christy now.
Can I,
sorry.
before Kristen makes a comment on financials, I love the idea of a restaurant consultant, really. It's not
Yeah.
something we do here in the town, so I think that is money well spent in advance of this project, because we could all be like, whoa, and people be like, what? That's like ridiculous. So, and I would look to, however we finance, look to recoup that cost as well. It's not just like a, sunk project cost. So
Absolutely.
I just keep that in mind as we finance the project.
So I was just going to say that when we last met with the Municipal Building Committee, we talked about actually not coming to the October town meeting with a warrant article because we were still having conversations about what the right time to bring in the restaurant. And in talking to the architects and having further conversations with our bond counsel and attorneys to try to understand kind of our own requirements, it really does make sense to ask for funding for that food service consultant. Also, we need to bring on an OPM at this point. And then, further design, so additional funding for architecture, or design. So we'll have to figure that out on Thursday because I don't know the numbers either. But I suspect it's over that a requirement for an OPM, which is just over $1 million, I believe. So the way that we funded this feasibility study was it was $100,000 that the town meeting appropriated. 32% of that came out of golf club retained earnings because 32% of the building has been identified as golf pro shop, while the rest of it is the restaurant. And so the remainder, the $68,000, came out of free cash. There's about $32,000 actually left in that article. So we would look to repurpose it into this new article as well as ask for additional funding. I don't have that number yet because we're going to learn that more on Thursday. But that would really be the way to keep things moving. The golf club the way that we've talked about it, and we're still trying to understand exactly how it will work, the golf club would finance its portion of the building. So one of the things that we've talked about with the architects is understanding whichever design we go with, like what percentage of the building is golf club, what percentage of the building would support the golf club potentially with, these, the tournament dinner spaces and things like that. And we'll work with bond counsel to really understand that because the enterprise fund could pay that debt. But there may be a portion that has to be separate, and then that's really where we talk about the lease payment. So depending on what the number is, if we go forward with free cash, it wouldn't necessarily come right back in. When we get a lease payment in the future, it wouldn't go right back into free cash, but ultimately we would be developing a lease that would pay the costs of the project over time. So that's where we're at, and we'll know more on Thursday.
Thank you, Christy. Any further questions, comments? Alan, we don't see you. Are you all set?
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, terrific. I don't see a motion or anything needed here, so I'll just say thank you very much for coming in tonight and sharing an update with us. We look forward to hearing the conversation on Thursday, and certainly do appreciate the NBC's work on all this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to item 7, request of Albrecht Auto Group to amend Class 1 dealer license. Welcome. Come on up and introduce yourself, and I'll just remind you, please speak close to the microphone.
Thanks for your patience while we
Yes.
little behind schedule.
No, me too. Traffic was horrible getting here. I apologize. My name's Anthony Carboni. I'm the general manager of Albrecht Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram. We went through the site plan, which was approved by the planning board. Now I just want to take the site plan and parking and get it approved by you guys to amend the license. It's pretty straightforward, I think, at least. The site plan allots for 66 spaces. 28 of them will be used for inventory. The remaining will be used for either customer vehicles or employees. The inventory spaces will be right up front, and everything else will be all surrounding the building. I included a site plan in the package, as well as a letter detailing exactly how many spaces will be used. And I'm happy to answer any questions at all.
Thank you. I'll just open up to the board to see if there's any questions or comments. Go ahead.
I know we went through site plan, then you went through the planning board. Anything from when you presented to us to the final decision from planning board that was dramatically different from what we had seen as a board?
Nope. It was just a matter of figuring out exactly where the easements were and where we're putting the doors. I think that was just, there's a little bit of miscommunication and misunderstanding on my part, which is why it took a little longer, but the building's not changing. The footprint's not changing. The site's exactly the same.
Perfect. Thank you.
And was there a question on sewer as well? Did that get resolved?
It's been resolved.
Okay.
Yeah, the town had no records of sewer being allocated to the existing building, so we had to figure out how to make it work, and we did.
Okay, great.
Yeah, with the help of Lisa and everything else, we came to an agreement, and we'll be perfectly capable. I think there's not to sort of beat a dead horse, but I think some of the Title V regulations are not normalized in a funky way. There's no the way the Title V break down allots each bay is unclear on what a bay is. It doesn't differentiate between car wash and repair bay. And so the Title V allotment's 150 gallons per day per bay. I have, which, across 11 bays would be, an astronomical amount of sewerage. And both of my buildings combined with 17 bays, all my staff and all my customers produce less than that as it stands. And this building will only have technicians and no car wash. So it was resolved. It was pretty straightforward.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Sean, Shelby? Alan? Well, thank you very much for bringing this for the board, and
Sure.
and I appreciate the business wanting to expand like this in the town, so that's fantastic. I'll open up to the board to see if I can get a motion.
I'll move to amend the Class 1 dealer's license issued to GTA Acquisition LLC, doing business as Albrecht CDJR, or Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Stellantis, North America, by adding the following language to the license under conditions and restrictions. Amendment effective 9/10/2024 for 80 Turnpike Road parking plan as designated and approved by the Select Board with a parking capacity of up to 66 vehicles, 28 for unregistered inventory vehicles, and 38 for customer and/or employee parking.
Second?
Any further questions on the motion? Seeing none, Alan?
Edinburgh, yes.
Sean?
Keo, yes?
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you again. We appreciate
Appreciate
it.
the board's time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eli.
Good luck moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8, approval of community development administrative assistant position and job description.
So this is it's a request to use funds that have already been appropriated from other positions to create a new position in the community development department. We currently have, I don't know if we want to shut that door. It's pretty loud. So we currently have funds in the Historic Commission budget for a board secretary position, and that funds a board secretary to take the minutes at their meetings and also staff that office for 9 hours per week. And then we also have funds in the Zoning Board of Appeals budget, which funds someone to take minutes and help draft decisions and receive applications. And that both of them are obviously part-time positions. We also have a need for staff support for the Community Preservation Committee. That's a very typical use of CPA funds. So we're permitted under the law to allocate, I think it's 5% of what we collect into administrative services. So a portion of that can be used to fund a position. And so in talking to the Historic Commission, as well as Fred at the ZBA, we do have a difficult time finding candidates for these really part-time positions. And so the idea was to pull them all together into one position with these responsibilities under the Community Development Department, being that they're all related to community development, and so then create this community development administrative job description for a position that would be range from 15 to 19 hours a week, understanding that some weeks might be later or longer due to meeting coverage. So that
still would be part-time.
It would be part-time, not benefited. We would look to post it immediately, but the CPA funds won't be eligible or won't be available until after the October town meeting. But we have not hired anyone for the other two positions, so we have the funding to move that forward. And we have a location. They would sit within the Historic Commission office, so they'd be able to staff that for the 9 hours per week that they've requested. And right now Owen is supporting the CPC, but that wasn't a long-term solution. So, and maybe I did say it, that this has been looked at by the chair of the Historic Commission, Hazel Nurse, as previously on the Historic Commission, also former chair of the CPC, and then also Fred Leonardo.
Sounds like a great idea to me to
Yeah.
put it all together.
Just, do you have, sorry.
No, go ahead first.
Just clarification, so we're not adding headcount, this is really consolidating or creating a position to support multiple departments up to a maximum of 19 hours, 9 of which are specifically allocated to staffing the historical
Commission,
room,
yeah.
the
Yep,
room,
yep.
And so are those 9 hours also allocated within the allocation to the Historical Commission? So that leaves up to 10 hours to those other 2 committees per week? Or, I mean.
Yes. I
know
mean,
it varies,
there's
right,
an
'cause they're not
overlap of,
meeting.
yeah. So, I mean, I would expect that while they're staffing the Historic Commission office, they might be doing minutes for the ZBA or, answering questions about CPA. So, but we think that this creates, it's the right amount of distribution of their time.
Yep.
And to your first question, right now we have 2 of these 3 positions. We would likely be asking for that new position to use funded by the CPA funds. So we're going from 2 to 1 head count.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I think it's great. I think you just hit on it. What I was thinking is the same thing. While it's staffing that,
Yeah.
there are times that there will be people that will come into the Historical Commission office that they will
Service. Yeah.
service,
Yep.
but at other times they can be doing stuff for the Historical Commission, the zoning board. I just think it's,
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's a
I
great
do
idea.
too.
Yeah.
I love it too, and I think that there's lots of crossover, and we're just starting to see the work. We will start to see the work of the CPC. So, that I would anticipate will be a very active committee once they get kind of their sea legs under them. So, great idea.
Thanks.
Question, so we need to go to town meeting to request that we fund a few hours of this from the CP.
Yeah, so there's an article on the town meeting warrant currently that we will actually do it every year during the annual town meeting, but we didn't do it. So it has to put the money into the different buckets,
Yeah.
and so we'll ask town meeting to put it into that administrative bucket. Yeah.
Alan? Any questions, comments?
No questions. It sounds like a great idea to consolidate the positions and improve the service to the committees, boards, and office.
Yeah.
Yeah, very supportive of it.
Minutes.
I think it's a
Sounds
great idea.
easier to get someone hired too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, what a great opportunity to learn
Multiple things.
aspects of town government.
Absolutely. I think it's a smart move to do
Well, I
this,
don't know
so.
about fun, but I call it fun.
Yeah,
You are, yeah.
I know.
I
All
agree
right.
with you.
Very good. Okay, can I get a motion?
I would move to approve the community development administrative assistant job description as presented at 15 to 19 hours per week, and further to amend the classification plan by adding the position.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Alan?
Edinburgh, yes.
Keo, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you, Christy. Now we're back ahead of schedule.
Don't say that.
Oh, stop.
Well, yeah, I had to say it before this topic.
Yeah.
Item 9, community center update.
Okay, I have a slide. Oh, thank you, Susan.
Sir, feel free if you want to pull it on the blinds over there. It looks like it's pretty bright on you.
Kevin's being blinded over there.
I didn't plug it in yet, so that's why it's on it. So I just wanted to give an update related to the community center. So the first update is that we completed our second charrette today at the senior center. We had a charrette last night, which was really well attended. And then we also had a charrette this afternoon at the senior center, looking at the preferred design and really allowing people to workshop that design at individual tables, making comments, drawing on plans. We also had a separate meeting, which was requested at Walker Meadow this morning, where we had about 30 attendees come to give input. So the architect was there. And Kim left your meeting because she is at Arrive at another meeting this evening. So really trying to reach out as much as we can to everyone in the community. I think we actually did see a lot of new faces. I know last week I presented to the newly started up again Civic Leadership Academy, and we had lots of students at the charrette, so that was good to see. So the architects will take that back and continue to work on the design. Sort of separate from all of that work that's been going on, we are moving the recreation department into the community building at the end of the month. So they will be closed from the 18th to the 23rd to move all of their stuff and get set up and get ready for programming. And then they will open and be available to the public in their offices there on September 24th, which is a Tuesday. And so they already are considering which programs they're going to move out of the schools. In addition, which programs they will be adding. And I know that the senior center director is working on her October newsletter and will be announcing some programs that will be held at the community building. So without having done any renovation, we're really excited to start using the building, and we're excited for the public to come in and see it and to use it with us. So that will be happening at the end of September. And then I think the last thing that I wanted to talk about is funding of the community center project. So at your meeting on August 29th, you were presented with 3 alternatives that had estimates attached to those, and then an estimate attached to the preferred design, which is approximately $15 million. So I think a lot of the questions that we're getting at the charrettes and other public meetings is just related to how the town intends to fund these. So I'm putting this slide up just to show a couple of funding sources that we're looking at, because we've told people that we wouldn't be looking to do a bond for the entire project, and so I just kind of want to talk through this a little bit. So the Pulte Stabilization Fund, for folks who might not remember, the Pulte Del Webb project up at the state hospital was originally required to have affordable housing or affordable units, and they went to the ZBA and they got a variance from the ZBA and saying that they did not need to do affordable housing, but in lieu of that, they offer a payment to the town each time that they complete a building, and that money goes into the stabilization account, which town meeting created and said it could only be used for affordable housing and capital projects to support seniors. So we have received over $3 million, actually probably over $4 million into that account. $1.8 million has already been transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust. We currently have a balance of $2.7 million. And that is up to an amount of $9 million. So roughly $7.2 million, which includes what's already in the account and then what we anticipate receiving in the future, would be available for affordable housing and capital projects to support seniors. This, in talking to town council, this would require, if we were to use this as a funding source, we could use this money to pay down debt, but we would have to have a town meeting vote every time we receive the money. So we would have to receive the money. There was a question of, can we sort of direct future payments to this? And we can't. So we have to go to town meeting each time we receive that money, and then we would have to ask town meeting to use that money to direct it towards this debt. So the total amount, again, is $7.2 million over the building of those buildings, but the current balance is that $2.788237 million. And then another thing that I think we're asked a lot about is the sale of the senior center, and what, if the town really is going to sell it, how, we want to make sure that we're clear on our commitment to selling it. So I was asked as recently as today, what would we get for it? And I don't know. So But so I just wanted, so there's steps to be taken to understand that. So the senior center sits on 43 acres currently of town-owned property, and that includes land that includes the recreation fields that are right there. And so what we need to do, and we've started to get quotes to work with an engineer to do the survey work. We need to identify where we want to create the new lot lines to subdivide the property. And then at that point, we could do an appraisal of what we wanted to sell, or we could just put it out to bid. But we can't sell it without authorization from town meeting. So I just put some numbers in here. This is assessed value. So currently, the whole property is assessed for that 2.157 million, but the building value is the bulk of that at 1.1 million. And so that just sort of gives us an idea of what we might see, but we also, again, would need to subdivide that property. So the next steps for that is, subdividing the property and then deciding on those lot lines, which we would need to do with the board. So those are just two of the items that I think we've identified. We have also identified sale of real estate as a potential option. There's about $1.8 million in that account. That can be used for anything for which we would borrow. So that's this is the only slide that I was going to show. I just wanted to show that as some potential funding sources that maybe are a little bit more specific to this project. I think I know that you've all attended these meetings as well, and so I think we've heard a lot of concern about the $15 million number. And so we have asked the architects to give us a number, the architects and the OPM to give us a number for just design. And that's a similar approach to what the library took, where they ended up going for just design money. I think we're learning that there's a lot more public engagement in our future to really understand the full build out of what we want the senior center to be. And at that point, we can identify potential phasing or alternatives or things like that. So wanted to start to have that conversation because, as you know, a lot of people were asking about it.
That's great.
If I may?
Sure, I'll just say really quickly, I just wanted to give you feedback, Christy, on the charrettes. I heard a lot of positive feedback around the rooms in regards to the process and the communications, so kudos to you and this board and the architects for being available. So thank you.
So first a question, Christy, for you. One is on the subdivision, maybe getting a little too in the detail here, but is it possible that we could decide that we don't want to subdivide it and we want to sell all 43 acres? I'm just saying, is it possible?
We would lose the fields over there,
Right.
the Rogers
No,
fields.
right, but like,
Is it actually technically possible? Yes.
yeah, okay. And this board would make the decision to subdivide it, or is it and a town meeting vote? What's that mechanism?
Yeah, so you can't sell any property without town meeting vote.
Right.
And the town meeting vote would refer to a plan. So we could refer to, if you wanted to sell the whole thing, we could just refer to this parcel ID.
Yep.
If we were going to subdivide it, we would do that and then refer to the plan.
Okay.
So we would do that we would subdivide it. The board has the authority to subdivide it?
Well, you would help create lot lines, and then we would go through the process with the planning department.
Okay.
And there'd be public comment, public hearings, all that stuff at that point.
Okay. So I want to thank all involved. I won't name them because I'll definitely miss someone, for the work that's been done, which I'm sure I can't fully appreciate, to get us to the point of where we're at right now in terms of the design, the charrettes, the planning of it, and the actual execution. So thank you. And thank you to the public, all those who were able to attend, and we have seen comments obviously before the meeting on the 29th that Christy referred to, and even since, people are submitting those comments and their feedback as these types of presentations are being made. So that's great. Having attended both charrettes, it is crystal clear to me that more public engagement is needed. I think it's, just as a comparison, what we just saw in the golf club, it's like, how do you visualize it and how do you use the space and all of that? And that's a much smaller building than this one. And quite frankly, there's a lot of emotion and history sort of related to moving an important group of our residents, that being our seniors, out of their current space and into a new one. And I think it's become very apparent to me that we need to allow more time for the public, all members of the public, all ages, to provide that input, and in a way that isn't just Facebook and emails, that has structure. And I think we saw from the library project, Sean, you can speak to this better than I can, that I think as much as we hate paying for design money, like, how do we know it's going to happen? I think we need to invest the money now and with professionals that can lead us through this process, and so we can make an informed decision at the right time, understanding that the right time might coincide with other projects down the road. So be it. We would have had a really thorough process. So I would not be in favor of bringing forward a build project type proposal to this town meeting. I don't think we're ready, but I would be supportive of some number. I think that we need to know that, and a proposal around design that, and only if that design includes community engagement spelled out in various ways.
Thank you. Others, comments?
I just want to say I agree 100% with everything Shelby said. I have nothing else to add.
Okay.
Perfectly said.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think we're seeing as part of the library building project that by doing that design first and really getting into the details, we're able to cost this out very specifically to get a very solid price, rather than if we tried to do something at fall town meeting, it would really be like, a ballpark, right? And so we want to be able, and I think the town has asked for that with projects consistently over the last few years. Like, let's try and be as specific and as detailed as we can on these significant numbers that we're asking to be spent. So, long-winded, I agree.
Alan?
Short-winded, I agree as well. Additional time for community input, but also community education. Looking at some of the feedback and some of the comments, it'll give more time for people to understand how a multi-purpose room can be scheduled. Realizing that the main room at the senior center is a multi-purpose room, and give people a better understanding of how the use of the building will happen and flow. So I think this is a good direction, and I'm always a proponent of being able to go do the design work and get bids, so that when you go for the money to do the work, you have the number.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what's also been said here in regards to the design work. It just makes sense, in common, simple terms. We're trying to buy a very expensive car here, and we don't know what we want, and we don't know how much it's going to cost us until we get the design work done. I had a number of conversations at the two charrettes with folks, and while I would love to have seen a dollar figure on every single room of those diagrams to say, hey, this room's going to cost X, the reality of the situation is you can't get there until you have a design and until you have that work done and laid out. And that will provide us and the community more information to better, in the future, possibly phase out the build out of the building. And hopefully that'll allow us to have some, as Christy went through some ideas in regards to the financing piece of it, it'll allow us some more creativity on how we approach the cost. So very supportive of what has been said here, and those are my thoughts. Any other comments or questions? No. Christy, is there anything you need from us? It was just an update, right? Just a conversation? All
So
right.
I will amend the, I don't think I need a vote because you'll have to vote on it later, but I will amend the article on the warrant.
Okay. Terrific.
And just a clarification, so the warrant article, then you'd be getting that estimate from our OPM or the architect, or both? How does that work?
Both, because we would need to have them both continue.
Okay,
Yep.
thanks.
And the language you're going to remove is the and construction piece of the article, is that?
Yeah, well, and so I guess we should also speak about that. I think it also says, I don't have it right in front of me, that it's to be expended under the direction of the Municipal Building Committee.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To date, this board has taken that role as we're working with the community on what the programming would look like. And so it seems like maybe it's not quite ready to hand over to that committee, which is really more construction.
Correct.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I'm
so
seeing
we'll
nods.
have to change that as well.
Thank you. Okay. No other comments? We'll move on to item number 10, E.L. Harvey contract.
So we have had some good communication with folks from Harvey's since we last met. As you remember, you authorized me to execute an extension through tomorrow. I think that we have gotten the language to of the contract to I would say almost a final draft. There are a couple things that have been changed since I actually put it in your packet. I can go through those, but I'm just not sure where we're headed, so I'll hold on that. But I think that they're minimal changes. There's sort of a couple things that we want to talk about, which is one is, as you know, when we originally got the quote and we set the budget, our expectation was that the town would not have any cost for recycling. As we moved through the process with Harvey's, they identified that there will be a cost for recycling. Just so we're clear, we've never paid that before, but there is a cost now associated with recycling. The town has an option of sort of how we would do that. So I actually have some slides here. So actually, I'll go here first. So we just received from Harvey's our recycling tonnage to date in calendar year 24. So we took those averages and we annualized them, and I did send that to the board today. But essentially, what we do now, the way that you bring your recycling and you drop it off now, is considered on this slide as single stream. So on the left, and so we're averaging about 110 tons per month, which so the estimated annual amount is that 13,000. I'm sorry, 1,300 per year. Under this scenario with a single stream, we would be paying $95 a ton. And so the estimated cost for the year would be that $125,000 roughly. We expect that recycling will go up a little bit. So these numbers are actually, this 1,300 tons is actually more than what we saw in fiscal year 24. So in fiscal year 24, the report that we got from Harvey's was that we had 1,000 tons of recycling. So this is a little bit more than that.
That's because we're pay as you throw now.
Yeah. But it's only 2 months. This data is only 2 months of that. The right side of this is the second option, which is to further separate plastic from paper, metal, and aluminum. So right now, all of those items can go into one bin. And in this option, the residents would be required to further separate the plastic. We already separate glass, and then the town would be charged $120 per ton for glass tonnage and plastic tonnage. So it sounds like we should do single stream because it's cheaper, but it's because the tonnage for just glass and plastic is actually estimated to be lower. So we used the calendar year tonnage for glass, which is that 7.43 tons a month to date, and then we annualized it. We did the same thing for plastic because we don't know. It's because it's right now it's combined. Plastic's obviously lighter than glass, but there could be more plastic. It's unlikely that it would be this much, but we don't know, so we're basing it on the glass. And so that would estimate about 180 gallons or tons a year, which would be that $21,000. So the question is, so I guess this slide here, so this is our budget. So our budget right now for Harvey's and Wheelabrator, which is the tipping fee that we pay, is the $683,580. So this slide is to show you that under both scenarios, we anticipate that we will actually have a surplus in this budget. So we can afford both of these. Obviously, the single stream, what we currently do, is more costly, but it would further require residents to change their behavior, which we've already asked them to do. And so the question is, what is the board's thoughts?
Go ahead.
I have a thought. I think we go to additional separation. To me, it goes back to what we were doing up to a couple of years ago, that we were separating more. I know single stream is the way, but I look at the numbers and we talk about saving money for taxpayers, and we're saving money. I mean, it's $100,000. I mean, every $100,000 adds up to me. I don't think it's that inconvenient. Again, we did it in the past. We separated this stuff out. So, and it's really just plastic that we're separating out now, because we're already separating out glass. So we just ask them to separate plastic. Everything else, cardboard's already separate. And now you're still going to keep, as I understand it, paper, metal, aluminum all goes into what I'll call one stream, right?
That's how they've explained it.
Yeah. So my personal take is you go to the additional separation. To me, it's a minor inconvenience for a considerable cost savings.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
I would agree with that. I guess I don't know when that would start. Is it like, hey, tomorrow? So we would want to announce it appropriately and try to give people as much heads up as possible. It would be great if they didn't find out when they showed up to the recycling center. But otherwise, I think everybody would understand. If we're saying we think it is $100,000 to the town, that I think folks would understand.
Yep.
Alan?
I'm leaning towards additional separation for now. I know that long-term, ideally, we're looking for a more comprehensive solution, and we can reassess single stream and a true single stream at that point in time.
Okay. Shall we?
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay. Well, I'm in the same mind. I think that we should further separate, and I think the $100,000 expected savings here is significant. If I remember correctly, the dollar value on the average tax bill will be around $13 to $14 reduction on an average tax bill, and I'm looking for every drop. And in this case, I think this is more like a half cup of relief. So, I am supportive of it. I guess my question is kind of two multifold here. Just having gone down to the dump earlier over the weekend, there's a bit of a challenge with the number of units in recycling, just the logistics of cars driving in and out. How do we further create a plastic
Can you elaborate on
area? So when you drive in to the dump and you pull up, you've got the cardboard on the side, then you've got two large dumpsters there, which right now are your single stream.
Yep.
You've got glass, then you've got the 4 or 5 30-yard dumpsters, which are for the pay-as-you-throw bags, and you've got the other miscellaneous metal and other things on the side. My question is, if we have to further separate plastic out, where would that reside? Are we going to convert one of those single-use stream areas? And I would look, I guess, to Harvey's to provide us a solution to this, but it's just a logistic question. How would that work? Further signage is certainly going to be needed. I absolutely agree with Sean in regards to educating the community and getting the right rollout to this, because of the fact that we're only 2 months into pay-as-you-throw. But I am supportive of this opportunity to reduce the tax bill. So, did that help?
Yeah, no, appreciate the clarification.
Okay.
I want to add that even though we've identified an estimated savings, there's a lot that we don't know about what will happen. And so as of right now, we are not proposing that budget be reduced for fiscal 25. And I think you know that. I just want to make sure that we're clear, because there's just a lot that we don't know.
Right, and it sets the bar for the future years. As we know more, we'll understand what that budget item be refined, and this is another hopeful opportunity that FY26 budget will be able to hopefully reflect a reduction of $100,000-ish.
Yeah,
So.
if we were to stay with the same program, I would anticipate that.
Yeah, okay.
I just a comment,
Mike.
if
Yeah.
just a comment, if we do, I think education's important, but I don't know if it's too late, but we have tax bills coming out at the end of this month, probably for November 1st tax bills. Is it time to, if we decide on this, can we get a slip that goes into tax bills of explaining what's happening here as part of that education program? I think we can also do other publications. Just an idea if we go that route.
Yep.
Everyone gets a bill.
Yeah.
So I think that once the town signs the contract, this would go into place, because currently we're extending a previous contract where there is no fee. So we could do that, but it might be after. We could send that out in the tax bill, but they might not get it like right at the same time. It depends on when we execute the contract, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I guess, is the contract retroactive to before, or is okay.
No, because we've been doing the extensions.
Right.
It also they wouldn't be able to do it because currently they don't separate the plastics. They wouldn't be able to weigh it. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm glad I'm going last. As you know, I've been working with Christy on the negotiation of this contract and all the infinite details. I'm really on the fence on this one. I worry about the perception of undue burden on those using the transfer station, and at the same time, fully supportive of how do we save money or potentially save money, even though we're not going to adjust the budget. Christy's clear about that. I also think that there's a sense from individuals who use the transfer station and love it that they're willing to commit that time to that. So I'm seeing some nods here that I feel like kind of in the spirit of that, I think people kind of will embrace it, but it is another change, and I think the board needs to be ready for, some pushback and comment around that, and I'm fine with that. I want to be clear, and with my understanding that enforcement of how things are thrown away is incumbent upon Harvey's, not our what are their titles?
The waste management coordinators.
Right. Well, meaning, so let's say that there are now new bins, right, and we're having change, that how people throw things away, right? The pay-as-you-throw is easy because it's either a maroon bag or it's not a maroon. Oh, here's Jen.
Come on up. You couldn't hide back there too long.
No, we tried. Jen Sullivan, Public Health Director.
Yeah, just get right on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So enforcement is actually done by all of us while we're there.
Okay.
Kelly actually has the ultimate say of if we're unsure of what goes where, she'll tell us where to put it. So if they're going to separate things, they're going to take the two long recycling containers that are on the right, and they're going to put 3 smaller ones in its place.
Okay.
So they'll be separated that way.
Okay. So I'm corrected. So will be a collaborative effort of sort of, again, education. Enforcement is maybe the wrong word, but education on the process.
Yep.
Okay.
And again, there'll be a educational portion, like you said. So even if they do put the new containers there, we're not going to catch everybody. When obviously, you know how busy you can get down there.
Yep.
It's hard for us to even catch people throwing into the conveyor belt, because you think they're going to one of the trailers at the end and throwing away, but they're actually going to the conveyor belt and throwing. So our eyes are on them at all times, but unfortunately we can't catch everybody. So there will be some mix in the beginning while we're educating.
Okay. And I can't stress enough, Jen, you know, we've been in meetings together with Harvey's, but to Patrick's point, signage.
Mhm.
It's got to be like clear
Mhm.
and all over the place, and I would not be supportive of making this change until we actually like approve of what they say and agree to it.
Mhm.
So I think that that's really, really important.
They did say they would provide the signage, but I will talk to BJ and ask for me to approve before he puts
Yeah,
up.
and again, approve is just, I want to know that those are there, so
Mhm.
we're not asking people to do something before, like, the instructions are there, we're giving bad information.
Yeah.
It would make our staff positions there, put them in a very difficult position.
I agree.
And real quick on that signage thing, I'm sorry to break
No.
in, but I was just going to say, having been there this weekend, I was actually really surprised. I hadn't seen this happen in a while. I backed into one of the 5 or so
Mhm.
trailers to throw my pay. As you throw in, 2 cars pulled in front of people who are already backed in and parked their cars in the middle of the lot, preventing people from getting out who had already. So my point on signs was not only signs of where things are, but we also need better road marking.
Yeah.
We need arrows. We need pathways.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, but I'm saying this in general. This needs to be a message
Yeah.
to BJ and team that we need to guide people better in the process. 1, 2, 3, however we can get the logic order of how they need to go through it, because it's a bit of a free-for-all.
I agree.
I think some inexpensive paint could help, and maybe some cones, but seriously, and I think that that's also part of where we can
Mhm.
have that conversation as part of the contract of what, you know, because it's kind of creates a win-win if we can do that. So, so I'm supportive of what the board has already stated around further sorting, and I guess kind of leave it at that on that specific matter.
Yeah. So we do have again a few items, and it sounds like maybe there's additional language that the board wants us to talk to Harvey's about. Also, in your packet is an email that's identified a credit that is due to the town, and that's based on sort of various factors, but one being over delivery of tonnage, and so we're still working to identify exactly what that number is. And so it's not specific to the contract, but it is an outstanding item with Harvey's.
Yeah, and if I may, it took me a while to understand over delivery of tonnage. Basically, it's a calculation. They give us, we send our trash there, or residents deliver it, and there's a town component to that as well. And then they calculate it, they weigh it. And their calculations are being corrected. So we did what we were supposed to do. They're supposed to give us numbers, and the reconciliation of that has requires further work. And so I think that's while it's not related to the current contract, I think it's important that we clean that up and all get on the same page before we enter into a new contract.
Very supportive of that. My question, probably more to waste management, is how far back does that go?
It's a question that we've asked. They gave us a lot of information, and to their credit, they explained it. They identified it, some of this, and so we had a bunch of questions back. We did a lot of our own calculations. And so we're working through all of that.
Yeah, it's led to more, so again, kudos to them for saying, hey, we overcharged you, so we owe a credit. And then as we were going through, okay, let's make sure that one item pairs out. I think it was for July, correct me if I'm wrong, like that was
June.
June. And then it was like, well, wait a second, we have some other further questions, which is what you're seeing here. And so I don't want to call it a full audit, but we're digging back in just to make sure things make sense.
Okay, great.
And again, I think it's just important that we clean that up before we go forward. So I know it means another contract extension. It means maybe we're not getting into this new model of recycling because we can't go there yet. But I think it's important to tidy up that box first before we go forward.
Sure.
If that's how everyone feels, then I would just ask that you authorize me to execute an additional extension through October 2nd.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion on the motion?
I don't know if Alan has.
He's still there.
Okay.
Alan, you still there?
Well, I like this approach, particularly since, the over delivery, was only for 2 months, and yet there's also an overcharge for town trash in the DPW billing discrepancy that they took back to January. So I think an extra month of extension gives us the time to figure this out. This credit is not trivial.
No, it is not.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further comment on the motion? Seeing none. Alan?
Edinburgh, yes.
Keo, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you, Christy, for doing that. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Jen.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, Jen.
Sorry, do folks still have other comments on any of this? I don't know if folks have other comments. I know we handled that point, but.
Do you mean as far as like the contract or questions
Well,
like
we
that?
pushing I'm assuming we're not approving a contract now.
No.
Yeah.
No. Okay, so we're going to be talking about it again.
We'll see
But
an
if you do-
updated version.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, if you do have comments on the contract language that's in your packet, I would suggest you send that to Christy right
Okay.
away so that we can factor that into.
Probably just more curiosities, but okay.
Yeah.
Well,
no.
if there's larger issues that
Yeah.
you want to talk to the board about, that
Yeah.
now would be the time, because the hope would be that at your October 1st meeting,
We're gonna resolve
we
it.
would be able to
Yeah.
execute.
the only feedback I've given recently was I did mention some cleanup things in the contract, just some commonality in language, but not anything structural or, significant that Christie's already
Got
aware
it.
of.
Got it. Okay.
Sean, you,
I'll just touch base.
You sure?
Yeah. Yep.
okay.
Okay. Let's see, moving on. Request to approve meeting minutes of August 20th, 24 and August 29th, 2024.
I move the approval of the meeting minutes of August 20th, 24 and August 29th, 2024.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Thank you, Sheila.
Yes.
Thank you, Sheila. Seeing none, roll call. Alan?
Edinburgh, yes.
Keo, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you, Sheila. Okay. Item 12, Town Manager's Report. Christie?
Yeah.
Might be a little different tonight.
Yeah, I did not complete my report, but I have some updates from the other. My report is that we've been doing a lot of community center public engagement, but I will read through, and I didn't provide this to you, so I will send it out tomorrow. But I guess it's pretty short. So in the Board of Health, respiratory kit distribution program has been started. So the Board of Health office has been selected to distribute respiratory kits to congregate care facilities in Westborough. This program, led by the Department of Public Health, is designed to enhance access to testing supplies and manage potential outbreaks more effectively. They've also been doing Narcan training for the Board of Health. So the public health nurse recently provided Narcan training for the epilepsy group in Westborough. Lake Chauncey inspections. So they did routine inspections for cyanobacteria at Lake Chauncey. Those have concluded, and the lake was reopened on September 3rd after confirming that water quality is safe. However, routine bacteria testing has ended for the season. EEE and West Nile virus risk. The Massachusetts Department of Public Health conducts testing for Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus from June to October. Currently, Westborough is considered low risk for both conditions. Despite the low risk, it's still advisable to take proper precautions to protect yourself and your family, as surrounding towns have an elevated status. In the police department on September 9th and 10th, the department, as part of their focus on officer health and wellness, held a department-wide training from the RACA Impact Institute, sponsored by the Westborough Police Foundation. The course is titled Rewire for Law Enforcement. No, Rewire for Law Enforcement. The Rewire 4 training introduces law enforcement to the basics of brain science, the impact of trauma on the brain, and how it affects behaviors and lifelong patterns. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Christy. Move on to item 13, request to appoint select board representative to the Central Massachusetts Metropolitan Planning Organization. Can I hand this to you?
Sure, yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. So as the board may recall, I have been the Northeast Subregion Representative to the CMMPO, the Central Massachusetts Municipal Planning Organization, which is, for lack of a better way, sort of a subset. We hear about CMRCP. We work with them on a number of technical grants. That's the Planning Commission, sort of the regional hub of where all transportation, major projects go through. And so we've worked with them. We're currently working with them on the BWALTS project in a community education aspect, and we've worked with CMRCP on a number of different areas. So on the MPO, the role of, there are, I should know the number offhand, I don't, it's like about 11 people on the board. And each region that's represented by the MPO is considered a subregion. Westborough is in the Northeast subregion. So I threw my name in the hat a couple years ago to be the subregion's representative, and I was elected. I can't say it was a really hard vote, but and there's also an alternate position that has remained unfilled. My term is up. I choose not to run again. It's a really interesting committee to be on. It's if you recall the project that Chris Pamp brought before us on the East Main extension with the road improvements and sidewalks, that went through that process and is now on the tip. We kind of hear that. So it's really important that towns are represented on that committee, and just by having a voice there, it kind of creates visibility. It doesn't create favoritism or anything, but it just creates visibility and kind of interest in all of that. So the commitment is once a month you attend a meeting. They're all virtual, typically Wednesdays at 4 p.m. and it's super organized, but the short of it is that we have an opportunity to recommend someone from our board. It doesn't require a vote of this board, but it sort of gives that person extra, like, yay, this board supports that person, if a member of this board would like to serve. And it just, for me, it's not the highest and best use of my time, given all that is going on personally, professionally, and also with my other work on this board. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Shelby.
Oh, and the meeting, I'm sorry, that's the important part why it's on tonight. So our next meeting of the MPO is on the 18th, and on the 19th, they will choose a new member of the subregion. So if there's interest, yay. If there's not, that's okay.
Any questions, comments, desire?
Sorry, how often is it meets monthly?
Yeah, so it's once a month. It's a virtual meeting. You get a packet about a week in advance. You read through it. I will tell you, it is highly technical. It's sort of like the work is like when we get site plan reviews. It's like that kind of level of language without the pictures. Often we see presentations. There's a cycle that goes through because of TIP funding. But basically you get an overview of a project and you're voting in support or not. I've not really seen any project honestly not supported, because it all gets really vetted heavily by CMRCP and all the design work that goes up into it. So it's not a heavy lift. It's just, I just can't add one more thing.
So the Route 30 project, did you have to recuse yourself for that project?
No, I asked and I did not. No, I asked specifically and I did not.
Okay. But you're also not really putting projects forward.
Chris brought that forward. Chris brought that forward. I specifically asked, do I have to recuse? They said, oh, absolutely not. No, City of Worcester brings stuff all the time, and they have a representative on there.
Okay.
Yep. So I think it's an important sort of political seat, for lack of a better way to say it, for us to have, if we have interest. And it was long-term, the seat was long held by a representative from the select board in Shrewsbury, who ultimately stepped down after like 20 years of service.
But it has to be a select board member.
It does, yes. Yep.
Other questions? Alan, you have any comments or questions? No? Okay. Ian? No?
So again, it doesn't require a vote of the board, and I'm not trying to sell here, just say it doesn't require, but if someone between this meeting and the next meeting says, I want to do it, really, if you just let me know, I can put you in contact, and you would then put your name in the hat. So,
Food for thought for all of you.
Wait, I'm sorry. So you put your, and then you would go to that meeting, and then presumably there's going to be other candidates for this role.
right.
And they would, so, got it. So
And
don't
pre-
go if you don't want the job.
And, right, presumably there may not be any candidates, because there hasn't been an alternate for this seat.
Got it.
You know, so there's two positions available.
You
You
know,
go,
if
you're
you're not
not-
sure, you might be,
Yeah.
be very careful what you wish for.
Exactly,
Or
exactly.
what you show up
Yeah,
for.
I mean, it's really interesting if planning and transportation, I mean, we, you know, now with our new director of planning, and we have an assistant, town planner position, or planning director coming on board, the town, you know, is, got the downtown development. I mean, there could be projects coming forward where this person, there's greater visibility and opportunity to engage in kind of the work, but it's just,
Should nominate
It's
somebody
not
from
my
the planning
thing.
board.
If we could.
yeah. you-
exactly.
Yeah,
Thank you, Shelby.
yes, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
that.
Okay.
It looks like
Well,
there's food for thought,
Yeah.
unless,
Well, and
unless
keep
someone would like
posted.
to make a motion.
I would just like thank you for doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you.
Yeah.
volunteer.
Yeah, no, and I wish I could continue, I just can't.
All right.
Keep-
Okay.
Let me know.
Step forward, I step back.
Seeing no additional conversation, I'll move on to item 14, issues of correspondence of the select board. Anyone would like to go first?
Yes, so I'll just put a reminder out there that tomorrow night at 6 PM is the meeting of the hosted by our planning department on the Bewalt Trail. So that's, I would encourage all board members, if you're able to attend that meeting. This will be sort of the really big and significant next update that the community will hear. So we'll hear that at the same time. So that's at 6 PM in the Grand Hall. And on Hockomock Pond Reuse Committee, the committee recently met. We reviewed the bid proposal that we received for basically engineering type safety work plan design. Had a bunch of questions that came out of that meeting. I'm working with Christy and Jennifer Miller, our conservation director, to answer those questions. And I would anticipate we'll meet again in October based on availability and the information we need to get back. And I've already talked about the community center. The only other thing I would just want to acknowledge and thank is, I want to thank the town, sort of stepping outside of my role as select board member, but as a member of the Westborough Connects board, for the town's cooperation and help for the first annual pickleball tournament that took place the last weekend in August. Worked with the rec department and town manager's office just to make sure we were doing everything by the book. And so just want to thank, as well as DPW, for some of their assistance with just letting us borrow things like cones. So really appreciate that help.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
I just wanted to mention, because we had talked about it before, that I don't know if someone was going to say it, but the 9/11 memorial ceremony tomorrow morning, I just didn't have the times when we talked about it. So it's at 9:50 tomorrow morning in the fire department parking lot next to the memorial. 9:50 will be the Pledge of Allegiance. And then they'll lower the flag and do a moment of silence, and it'll end around 10:01.
950.
950,
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you for finding that out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Okay, others? Go ahead.
Just a few things more about upcoming events, but just we talked about municipal building committee, as you heard, meeting kind of every 2 weeks, but make a lot of progress. Also, getting updates on the regional dispatch or regional communications center, as well as the community center, just kind of updates there. But I think we've talked about all that. But that continues. Unfortunately, from a rec department, as I'm the liaison there, the meetings keep getting scheduled in conflict with our meetings, so I'm not able to make them, but just kind of a highlight, part of that meeting goes through the golf course, kind of financials and updates as it falls under rec. Things have been going very well at the course this year, and as we heard, it's in great shape, except for some of those cart paths, but still kudos to Matt and Jen on running it, but also the superintendent in terms of keeping the course really top shelf. Just a few things to throw out there, kind of community events. September 29th, it's the inaugural event of the newly formed Westborough Fire Foundation, supporting the Westborough Fire Department. They are having their kickoff event at Arturo's Restaurant. It's on Sunday, 9/29, 4 to 7 p.m. Tickets are available, and you can purchase them on westboroughfirefoundation.org. On 10/5 is the annual Arts in Common at Bay State Commons on Saturday, 10/5. So always a good time and hope for nice weather. October 15th is the annual Westborough Police Foundation golf tournament, Hop Country Club, but there are still sponsorships and foursomes available there. November 6th, fall's a busy time. November 6th is the annual Westborough Good Scout Dinner happening at the Doubletree Hotel. The honoree this year is Jim Ball. So I think it'll be a great event, as it always is, and invitations are going out. I think later this week is the plan through Curry Printing, but encourage folks to go. It's always a great event for the town. And then finally, the Turkey Trot put on by the Western Education Foundation, happening at, I think it's 11/24, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, as it always is, starting and ending at the high school. So encourage people, if any of those are interested, they're just great town events.
And
for
Wassa
folks to-
too, I forgot to mention, the Wassa Row.
Yes.
On 10/19.
Yep.
And the budget summit.
Oh, wait, and the budget summit.
Very good. Thank you, Ian. Sean,
Is that a
anything?
fundraiser too?
Yeah.
Follow that one up, Sean.
Yeah, just a couple things. Economic Development Committee met this morning. We provided grants to Simply Windows, which is on Route 30, to the Fresh Monkey, which is a new smoothie place is it called the Milk Street?
West Meadow.
West Meadow Plaza. Thank you. And then Lindsay Taylor Spatique. Also, our Director of Planning provided an update on the proposed highway business zoning bylaw. For the feedback of the Economic Development Committee, it was, the feedback was strongly supported, but we'll hold the vote until after the warrant closes on that. Separately, Library Building Committee met just prior to this meeting. Still putting together the specifications to begin to go out to bid. We're looking to go out to RFP for the secondary location for the library for the move, putting together that RFP. That's sort of the first step. And we're also, at this point, going through line item by line item, sort of confirming need and things and continuing to try and knock things off the budget to try and bring it, down before we present it at annual town meeting. So, and we will go out to bid for the larger project in the next couple of months so we can ensure that we have all the bids back by annual town meeting. So project just continues, and we'll have 2 more meetings in September as we continue to try and work through this. So,
Can I ask
that's
a question?
Sure.
About the library. So this was asked, relates back to the community center. So I'm just speaking under that agenda item. So I was asked if we are considering the first floor as potential space for the library, secondary space. And I'm not looking for an answer, but I think that is a question in the community, and at least I think we owe the public a response to
Yes.
that.
I think there's concern, right, so you don't know how long the renovation takes. I mean, you hope it's quick, but you
Meaning
have.
the library renovation.
Right, pardon me, thank you.
Yep.
And so I think we're looking for space that we can hold for at least 2 years. And because we're looking for a 2-year time frame, does that then hold the community center project beyond when any of us reasonably want to work on it? So,
Good question.
I've reached out to the building committee and looking for the square footage that they're looking for in that RFP. So I don't know. I'm assuming you don't have that on top of your head, but that's something.
7? No, I don't. No.
For the temporary space, it would be good to know what that square footage is so we can look around.
I think it's important that we have that collaboration just to make sure. Yep.
Yeah, so we're trying to finalize some of those details in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So we should have them soon.
Terrific. Anything else, Sean?
No fundraisers. Sorry.
Thanks, Sean. Alan?
No fundraisers either, but the town is updating its open space and recreation plan. So to the list of meetings already shared on Thursday, September 19th, starting at the Great Hall at the Forbes Municipal Building, there's a drop-in hour from 5:30 to 6:30, and then a formal session to solicit community input and facilitate community education about open space and recreation space within Westborough. So if you're interested in participating and providing feedback that will guide decisions on where the town spends money to add or improve or replace open space and recreation facilities over the next half decade to decade, now's the time to get involved.
Thank you, Alan. And I just had a couple of quick updates from Sustainable Westborough. I just let everyone know that last night they voted and supported the new zero emissions vehicle policy. So the next step for that is it's going to be going to the school committee for their review, and then it'll come back for final edits and whatnot, and eventually it'll work its way to this board. I just want to say a thanks to Jeff Levine and Ben Bowers for all the work that they've done with me in regards to working on that, and certainly the town department heads and Christie's office for supporting the development of that. So you'll be seeing that soon. And then I'll also just remind the community that the EV Expo is planned for September 29th, 2 to 5 p.m. At the 50 Otis Street, so same location we've used in the past. We are looking for volunteers. Please reach out to Jeff Levine and or Pete Dumbeck if you would like to get involved in that project. And I think that's all I had. Thank you very much. I'll look for a motion to adjourn into executive session.
Thank you, Westborough TV.
And thank you, Westborough TV.
Okay, I'll move we enter into executive session to Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, Ari Ferris Development Group LLC versus Town of Westborough, Lax Media LLC and Lax Media Mass LLC, Worcester Superior Court, CA number 2285CV01281. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. And under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, i.e. Town of Westborough versus Westborough SPE LLC, Boston Suffolk County Land Court Case Number 19 TL 000768. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, discuss strategy with respect to litigation, i.e. Westborough SPE LLC versus Town of Westborough et al., U.S. District Court, CA number 4:23CV12017-MRG. The chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. And under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation regarding Westborough SPE LLC, U.S. Bankruptcy Court Case Number 23-40709. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's litigating position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property at 231 Turnpike Road and 1 and 3 Mill Road. If the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board's negotiating position. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental impact on the negotiating position of the public body. TIF agreement for 2325 Bridle Lane, Westborough. And under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A7, to act under the authority of the Select Board to approve executive session minutes of August 20th, 2024.
And I will declare that the open meeting would impact our litigating and negotiating position, and we will not be reconvening after executive session. Again, thank you, Westborough TV.
Second.
Yeah, motion. And I'll look for a roll call vote. Alan?
Edward, yes.
Keo, yes.
Johnson, yes.
Marshall, yes.
And Welch, yes. Thank you very much.